This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Here it looks very peaceful out on quarantine. Lots of impala around, but I know that there's some lions around too, because there have been tracks all around camp and close to our camp sign actually. So that means some exciting stuff can happen, and I think they might be just on the western side of these impala right now. So jump on board, everybody, for your live safari through the African bush. Like I said, they're very peaceful, and in a weather like this, hunts can happen very quickly. You can see it's quite overcast. It's about 32 degrees Celsius, 89 degrees Fahrenheit, and I am Trishala with Johan on camera with me this afternoon. A very, very exciting start to the afternoon. I was about to say morning. And we're going to just have a quick look around all over quarantine, because they might be on the western side. So far we've just come to the central and on the eastern side of quarantine. But like I said, very quiet, very, very nice. So we're going to do a bit of tracking and see if we can find them. And we're going to head off now. So your live safari, use that hashtag WildEarth to chat with us, or at FC on the YouTube chat stream. Or you can go onto our website and sign up and use the question box and leave your questions and your comments. Oh, look, a couple of them having a box. We'd love to hear from you, because sometimes we have amazing discussions. Don't we just? Still lots of silence, though. All right, let's head off, because I know they're around here somewhere. Tracks haven't left this area, but there's no tracks on this side, so my feeling is that they're still on the western portion. Well, if the impalas can't see them in the grass, how am I going to? So we're going to have to do a bit of driving and a look around. And while we do that, I'm going to send you over to Deirdre for her to say good afternoon.
It is a toasty 33 degrees. I thought it was hot yesterday, but today is definitely much hotter. I think it's like 92 degrees Fahrenheit. The cicadas are buzzing because there is humidity in the air. I can definitely feel it, but just look at the clouds. This morning when I said there was a northerly wind blowing and it generally brings in the rain, look what faces us in the north. So you're with me, Deirdre, by the way. I forgot to even introduce myself. I get so excited to just start the drive. So I'm Deirdre. On camera with me is Davy. I know this morning I called him Davy, David, and Dave. So he apparently is happy with all three. Lucky for me. But yeah, we're definitely going to try and avoid the thunderstorm that might be coming our way. But we're going to try and follow up on 2 male cheetahs that were spotted this morning. But just a nice look. Some springbuck. Fast food for cheetah. Just listen to the sounds. We may even be lucky enough to be in the right place to see lightning that Davy and I will be safe, because we'll be far enough away from it, but definitely with this intense heat and the sheer volume of cloud buildup, I have a really positive notion that it will have some lightning possibly attached to it later. Beautiful, beautiful afternoon. So this will be just a breeding herd of springbuck, predominantly predominantly females and youngsters, and I'm going to send you across to somebody else that wants to say hello.
Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve, where first up we've managed to find a group of elephant bulls busy drinking from a pan. Have a look at that. Spraying water with his trunk, missing his mouth by the looks of things. My name is Damon, and behind the camera this afternoon we've got Glenn, and super excited to be coming to you live from the southern parts of andBeyond Phinda today. And our plan for this afternoon is that we had set out to go look for a pride of lions that was seen at a waterhole not too far from here. Along the way though, we spotted these 3 elephant bulls from quite a way off, busy drinking at this little waterhole. Oh, look at that. I don't know if you guys heard that. That low rumble that came from those 2 elephant bulls up at the top there. And the one on the left, the one that's slightly lighter in color, obviously hasn't been throwing as much water onto itself. It kind of leant over and head-butted its companion. Shame. the one on the right was obviously caught by surprise and gave a little bit of a rumble or bellow in surprise. Probably just a bit of a playful nudge. And just having a look at those 2 elephants, have a look at how the one on the left, how he's a little bit taller. See how his shoulder comes up a little bit higher? And at the same time, look at how his belly hangs a little bit lower to the ground, a little bit closer towards his knees, if you will. So a little bit of a bigger elephant bull, so probably a bit older than his companion. Maybe just reminding him who's boss. Typical behavior of young elephant bulls, kind of sorting out their hierarchy now as youngsters. And then of course this bull on the far left, look at him in comparison to the other 2. Look at how enormous he is. He's taller, that belly of his hangs even lower down towards the ground. Oh, quite a bit of flatulence coming from the elephants. I don't know if you can all hear that. But then also have a look at his tusks. Now obviously the tusk closer to us, see how it's missing. He's lost his left tusk, but look at that right-hand tusk and how long it is, but also how thick it is. Much, much thicker than the tusks of the other 2 bulls. So a much older elephant bull. And no doubt these 2 youngsters are following him around, learning how to be an elephant bull from him, keeping him company. And the 3 of them together will move across the plains, going wherever the best food is, and then coming to drink and mud wallow when it gets really hot. McConnell, you're asking how much water an elephant can drink. Well, McConnell, it'll depend on how big the elephant is, and of course also on how thirsty the elephant is, just like you or I. But I've read that they can apparently drink up to close to 100 litres in one sitting. So around about 98 litres in a sitting, and then apparently over 200 litres in a day, if they're able to, and if the water is available to them, and if they're thirsty enough, I suppose. That's a lot of water. Think about that. I don't know, I apologize, I don't know what that is in gallons, but that's a lot of water. Look at how this big elephant bull, the old bull on the left, look at how he's got his trunk resting on the ground. Now, of course, with him being much bigger, he's obviously much older as well. And just looking at how low that belly hangs and looking how thick his tusks are, how thick his tusk is, and also how thick the base of his trunk is, quite an old elephant bull. And so, well, and of course, no doubt that trunk, just being the size it is, probably pretty heavy, and quite a strain on those neck muscles. So just taking some time out now that he's lathered himself in mud and had a drink of water, taking some time out to rest. Look at how he's feeling the tip of his tusk with his trunk. Look at that. And you see the two fingertips on either side on the top side and the bottom side of his trunk. A defining feature of African elephants. I don't know if any of you have ever seen an Asian elephant before, ever had a close look at its trunk. It's only got one fingertip, just a fingertip on the trunk. Whereas these African elephants, these African savanna elephants, they've got two fingers, one on the top and one on one on the upper side of the nostrils and then one below the nostrils. And look at that now, how he's resting that trunk on his tusk. Almost like he's got his arms folded. BL Girl, you're asking a very interesting question. You're asking what might have caused this elephant bull to lose his tusk. Well, BL Girl, it could have been from a couple of things. The most likely cause, though, would have been a fight. So if he'd been in a big fight with another elephant bull, perhaps both of them were in must and fighting over the right to mate with a female, those fights can get really, really intense. And it's possible that he broke his tusk off during that. It also might be he may have been using his tusks to help him feed, maybe digging for roots or trying to break branches off of trees. Those are things that can also cause elephants to break their tusks, especially when they get older. There was a famous case of a very famous big tusker in the Kruger National Park a couple of years ago, and he had absolutely enormous tusks that came all the way down to the ground, and he broke off both of his tusks about midway up between their tip and the lip line, and it was thought that he did it while digging for roots. I suppose also possible that he might have been born with just the one tusk, could be a genetic thing. But we know in the case of this particular elephant bull, because of how characteristic that feature is, we know that was not the case. He broke his tusk. We're not, but again, could have been from a fight, could have been from foraging. Shame, look at all the animals that are gathering around the water now. I don't know if you can see just behind the elephants there's some zebra and some giraffe that are desperately trying to get to the water to drink. But with these elephant bulls being here, they're unlikely to let the other animals drink. Being the biggest animals out here, they're of course at the top of the hierarchy. Oh, look at that bull now busy defecating. I don't know if you were able to hear that sound, that thud, as those huge balls of dung hit the ground. Oh, he's letting everything out. He's now busy urinating too. Both of them. And dropping more dung into the urine. Look how I'm sorry to be graphic, but look at how the foam splashed up onto the back of his back leg. I suppose they always teach little boys not to pee into the wind. I wonder if they teach elephants not to defecate in their own urine. Anyway, getting back to the zebra and the giraffe that are busy trying to come down and drink. They won't be able to come and drink, at least not until these elephants let them. So Glenn and I are going to spend a bit more time here and see what happens, see how long these elephants spend here, and see if they eventually let the other animals come and drink.
Is it just pretended to be dead? Oh, that was amazing. I can't. How do I it's like that is hands down the coolest.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth Daily. WildEarth is launching our brand new Explorer program with an opportunity to win a very special WildEarth expedition. The lucky winner will get a behind-the-scenes WildEarth experience at the magnificent and beyond Ngala Tainted Safari Camp. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend with a chance to sleep out in the unique Ngala treehouse. Become a WildEarth Explorer and stand a chance to win this and many other prizes. Terms and conditions apply.
Why is the Mara special? It's one of the only few places that you can find the annual wildebeest migration. I will still go for the lion. The main reason is a sign of royalty, leadership in my tribe, and apart from that, over here, it is feared by all but loved by everyone.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth. Join our Explorers program so we can keep on sharing nature with the world. For a monthly subscription, you will have the opportunity to win fantastic WildEarth expeditions, have access to an animal identification app, receive weekly highlights from our shows, and much more. All the money will go to keeping these live safaris on air, which in turn connects a global population with nature.
Welcome back to andBeyond, Phinda. And it looks like the elephants are slowly starting to move away from the water. They've left just this one younger bull, the one that got head-butted earlier. And the other two bigger bulls have started to walk down the road. But watch here. Look at this youngster on the right who's starting to, looks like he's about to pick a bit of a fight with the old bull. Now, look at how slow these movements are. It's not a serious fight. Neither of these bulls are in must. And that young bull will know not to challenge the older bull seriously because he's just so much smaller. I mean, look at them now. I suppose height-wise, they're pretty similar. But the bull that's closer to us with his rear end to us is much denser, much more muscular, much heavier. The far bull, as we said, a bit younger, still quite lanky, and yet to fill out, yet to reach his prime. So he'll know not to challenge the old bull seriously. But these kind of play fights are something that we often see with these elephant bulls, these bachelor herds of elephants. And again, it's just about them. For the younger bull, it's about him kind of practicing his fighting skills, taking the old bull's measure, testing his strength. Tswalu, you're asking how long elephants will live in the wild. Well, Tswalu, it's normally, well, again, it depends on the area that they live and depends on the kind of food they eat, Tswalu. But normally 60 years is about the cap. But if they make it to about into their mid-50s, they've done pretty well. And that's all based on, well, it's normally based on the wear and tear on their teeth. I don't know if you've heard about elephants' teeth and how, because of their diet, eating lots of rough vegetation, grasses, bark, roots, obviously those are all very coarse things that can wear teeth down very fast. And so elephants have got 6 sets of molar teeth that replace each other throughout their lives. But when they get to that last set of molar teeth, once that last set is worn out, has been worn smooth, they can't chew their food properly and they normally die of malnutrition. And so that's normally at around kind of the late 50s into 60, so somewhere around there. That's normally what limits their lifespan. So obviously if an elephant lives in an area where there's really lush, soft food, nutritious food for them to feed on, their teeth will last a bit longer. But if they live somewhere where the food is a lot coarser, a lot drier, a lot more, or a lot harder on the teeth, those teeth will wear down faster and their life expectancy will be a bit less. Look, there's a bit of a standoff now. And look at this bull on the left. We were speaking about the bull with the old bull with just a single tusk. Look at the elephant bull on the left and how he's got almost his tusks are not symmetrical. They're almost lopsided. Look at how the one closer to us kind of points up. And then if he lifts his trunk, watch ya. That old bull deciding, I'm just going to remind you who's boss and push you around a bit. But again, it's not.
Sorry about that, guys. I'm sure we'll get Phinda back in no time. Found the lions, but they're on the move, and they're on the move into that drainage that we often don't drive in, the one between Western Quarantine and Rebecca's. So I'm hoping that they'll pop out. So they moved from basically this portion of quarantine straight into thickets here. So we're gonna hope they pop out. But I see other vehicles coming out. All right, I think I'll go to Rebecca's Road. I'll go to Rebecca's Road and stand by there and see if they'll pop out. That's one of the most difficult drainages, I think, in Djuma. I've been stuck there before. Quarantine is the place to be this afternoon. In weather like this, there was also somebody who was traveling between the lodges. One of the staff saw a leopard as well around 2 o'clock, the southern side of Tumbeta. So on our way down to Rebecca's, it'll take them a little while to navigate that drainage. We'll check out that southern side of Tumbeta House. These poor impalas have had lions on one side and leopards on the other for a few days now. Remember when Tingana was harassed by the 3 lionesses here? Exciting. I feel the buzz in the air that I always tell you about out in the bush. Anyway, Damon's got a whole host of herbivores. Let's go up and see.
Welcome back to andBeyond, Phinda, where there's almost also feels like there's a bit of a buzz in the air with some pretty ominous clouds rolling in. The elephants have left. They've left the waterhole, and look at how immediately the other animals have started to come down to the water. Look at those zebra that are coming down, nervously making their way towards the water. Look at how skittish they are, how they keep lifting their heads and listening around. Very different to those elephants. Remember how those elephants were standing so still and almost standing lazily, resting, the one resting his trunk on the ground, very uncaring of everything going on around him. And of course, with him being so big, there's nothing for him to really worry about out here. The zebra, though, on the other hand, will know that water will, of course, attract many other animals, including large predators. Things like lions that might also be here to drink or might be here to hunt, because they too will know that water will attract animals coming down to drink. And so that's why these zebra are so skittish. But it looks like they're plucking up the courage to come down and drink now. See, there's these 2 that are drinking at the bottom here, and then there's another little pan of water slightly or further up the hill where that last elephant was standing. And it looks like some of them might go and drink there. There's a giraffe coming down into frame now as well. Young giraffe by the looks of things. Look at how fluffy those horns are. Quite a small giraffe. And also look at how skittish, well, not quite skittish, but how careful it's being before it drinks. Bowerbird, you're asking if some of these zebra are pregnant. Bowerbird, I haven't had a close look yet. Let me have a look through my binoculars quickly. So there's obviously that one in the middle with the little foal, and her belly is still quite round. As a result of, yes, there's 2 zebra mares in there. Well spotted, Bowerbird. The zebra mare to the right of the mother with the foal, and then even the one to the right of that one. There's at least 2 other mares in this herd that look like they're pregnant. Now, of course, with zebra, different to the warthogs, I'm sure you've all been seeing lots of little impala lambs and lots of little warthog piglets. And soon we'll start seeing wildebeest calves, all of those animals being seasonal breeders. These zebra are not like that. There might be a Well, at least not here. There might be a peak at certain times of year in terms of the births of foals, but typically speaking, a foal could be born at any time of the year. But yeah, there's 2 zebra mares that definitely look like they are expecting. It's a shame, they didn't even come and drink properly. There's a bit of a breeze blowing over our backs, everyone, so blowing from us towards the zebra. And I wonder if because they were very, very skittish, and I wonder if they weren't maybe picking up the scent of something ominous that has made them decide that it's better for them to not drink here and maybe go in search of water elsewhere. I don't think it's us, because the other animals haven't reacted. And that is something that an elephant would react to, is the smell of a human being. And those elephants didn't react at all. But there they go, heading down the hill. And the giraffes are coming down to drink now. Oh, shame, that one is still just a bit too nervous to come and drink. And of course this giraffe, just like the zebra, will also be quite vulnerable to attack by predators while drinking. So it's also going to be super careful as it makes its way to the water's edge. Shame, all 3 of them are all drinking in different places. And shame, I haven't even mentioned them yet. So, elephants, zebras, giraffes, and off to the right, wouldn't you believe it, there's 2 white rhinos here too. A mother and a calf. All the herbivores are here. They've all come down to the water. This being the only water source for quite some way around. And some of you may recognize this little pan of water. All different kinds of birds that are flying around here too. There we go, the giraffe's drinking. Look at how attentively it's drinking. Oh! And only for a very short time before it lifts its head. But let's sit here for a bit and watch, because I'm pretty sure that the longer this giraffe spends here, maybe not, I was going to say the more relaxed it should get. Just as it has more and more time to take in its surroundings, to listen, to smell, to make sure that there's no danger here. But shame, I think as it lifted its head, because of that sudden movement, did you see how quickly that giraffe lifted its head? It was almost like a jerky movement and a flick of the chin. It threw a bit of an S of water, and that quick movement seemed to startle the rhino calf, and it kind of jumped out the water, and then that movement startled the giraffe, and then it jumped up. The giraffe's coming back. It's looking at the rhino, looking at the water. Shame, it must be terribly thirsty. It's been a really hot day here in Maputo land. There we go, he's drinking again. It's drinking again. And now watch, when it lifts its head, see that little spray of water? When it flicks its chin. And again, quite nervous. I promise that it's not us that's unnerving these giraffes. Although my voice might sound loud in your speakers, I can promise you I'm talking very quietly with the microphone close to my mouth. So it's not us that's spooking these giraffes. And I made mention earlier I referred to the clouds and the stormy looking weather out to the west. And there's a bit of an ominous breeze that's blowing. That might get a little bit stronger if those clouds do develop into a storm. And often it's this kind of weather that does get herbivores quite nervous. Those high winds, the stormy clouds, the wind blowing smells all over the place. They can't as easily pick up the scent of predators. It can make them quite nervous. Winnie, you're asking if it's possible for a giraffe to break an ossicone. For those of you that don't know what an ossicone is, see those horns up on the top of the giraffe's head? Those are what we refer to as ossicones. And Winnie, I suppose it would be possible. It would have to be an extremely a very powerful force required that would be required, to break that ossicone. I don't know if you've ever had the chance to touch a giraffe's skull, but those ossicones are it's solid bone, so it would take an incredible force to break the ossicone. But I suppose for these, I made mention of the fact that these are younger giraffes. Just looking at their size and looking at how fluffy their horns are. And when these horns are still this young, and I suppose it would be easier for them to break them at this age. Even when they're even younger, those horns haven't yet kind of solidified, haven't yet fused to the skull properly, and then it would be very possible for them to break an ossicone or damage an ossicone quite badly, and maybe give them a deformed looking ossicone. But I can't think of any instance where I have seen, either with my own eyes or seen in a book or seen on a documentary, of a giraffe breaking an ossicone. Like I said, it would take an immense force to break one. The only thing I can think of is perhaps in a fight between two bulls, or maybe a giraffe that was desperately trying to escape something, running flat out and misjudging the height of a tree branch and hitting its head against the tree or something like that. I suppose those would be scenarios where that kind of thing might happen. Oh, did you see that? That little flick from the giraffe as it drank. I don't know how many of you are keen on photography, but that's often a really fun thing to try and capture on camera. The fast shutter speed is to try and get that S of the giraffe as it flicks its chin, and it forms that S of water. Try and freeze frame that. So if it does it again, get ready for some screenshots. See if you can get a shot of that S of water. Get ready, go. How many of you managed to get it? I'm sorry, you might have to rewind and then play again, and then try and get a screenshot of that S. But see what I was saying earlier, how with a bit of time these giraffes have relaxed quite a bit, and they're now drinking quite calmly, or relatively calmly, let's say. Ooh, that was quite an athletic little move there from the giraffe on the left. I don't know if you guys are able to see that. It did like a little hop from its drinking position. Glenn's nodding, saying he got it on camera. Alright, I think that Glenn and I are going to spend a bit more time here. I think these rhinos are going to slowly make their way towards the water, and they're going to drink too. In the meantime though, let's go over to Trish and see what her lions are up to.
Thanks, Yeah, we finally caught up with them. They moved so quickly through that drainage and much further than I expected. They're all the way on Zoe's road. So they went towards Rebecca's road drainage and then turned west towards Zoe's road. The Talamati Pride. I only saw 9 lions. And there's 5 lionesses and 6 sub-adults. Sorry, 9 sub-adults. So there should be more of them around. And the dark-maned evoker male that usually accompanies them is in Buffelshoek at Ngala Dam. The rest of the pride, as you can see, is up in front there. But this, we have a roadblock. They moved so quickly, I was quite sure that they had heard something, seen something. Perhaps the rest of them are nearby and they're calling. But I didn't hear anything. As you can see, our rain roof is on, or you would have seen with the pole. It's because it suddenly started to come down and heavy clouds started to form. And then, of course, it stops straight away as soon as we put the rain roof on. I'm very sure they're going to be getting a meal today. There's no buffalo on the property as far as I know. But maybe a zebra or even a giraffe. Because the impala didn't seem to interest them very much. But with a large pride, 14 individuals, you need to feed a lot of mouths, and when impala is not enough, you need to go for a big animal they can feast on. Listen to how quiet it is. Dizzy, you said this is a roadblock that you'd wait patiently for hours to clear. This is what we do, isn't it? Especially if they get very, very sleepy. I mean, I can see one head flat on the ground. It's behind one of the bushes there. Still a little bit early to get moving, but like I said, in weather like this, predators can be on the move from any time, at any time, making kills at any time. That's what's very difficult to actually say, lions only hunt at this time, wild dogs only hunt at this time, leopards only hunt at this time, because it depends very much on the temperature. It seems like it's a very catty day today. Deirdre and Tswalu has a cheetah for you.
Thanks, Trish. It is a very catty day. It is awesome. At Tswalu, we've got the two brothers, male cheetah. They haven't moved the whole day, so they chose, I don't know what made them or what possessed them to choose the smallest blackthorn and sleep under that, but they literally haven't moved since this morning. And the guides that reported them to us say that they were incredibly full. So chances are that they are moving are between slim and zero, especially with this heat. So they'll only think about maybe moving to a waterhole later. And these particular boys are known to move at full moon. They'll actually go hunting at full moon, which is, in some areas it occurs quite a bit, and in other areas just the sheer threat and volume and number of lions, they wouldn't even think about it. But here there's so much space for them to move that they do tend to take a chance, and sometimes they're actually successful hunting under the moon. So we don't know what they ate, but they have definitely eaten. And you can actually see that slight panting that one's got. So we looked there and he's got a little bit of brown on his lips. So Darby thought it might be a little bit of blood. If I look at the binoculars, I think it's just a little bit of saliva covered in some sand. But he's not too worried about that. Just beautiful, but hot. So the other one's tucked in the bush just behind, the other brother. There. So if you've got any questions, don't hesitate to send us your questions on #WildEarth and put @FC in front of any of the questions. You can ask us anything, or particularly about cheetah if you want to know. And remember, no question is a silly question. I know people think then they're thinking about, oh no, but if I type that, somebody's going to think I'm silly. There's no such thing as a silly question. You're out there at home watching us, and we're out here to answer all of those questions for you. He's panting. I wouldn't mind joining them, Darby, I must say, because that shade is more than what we've got. Hammond's question is, do cheetahs have retractable claws? Not totally retractable. They actually call them semi-retractable. So when you see a cheetah track on the ground, you actually see the indentations from the claws, but they stay out all the time so that the cheetahs have got running spikes. It's almost like spikes on a running shoe. That's what the cheetah have. So the cats that have retractable claws would be the lion and the leopard, the bigger ones. For cheetah, they need those claws for traction, for speed. That's how they are. They're built for speed. And they'll chase after something, sort of a maximum of 600 meters. And then, oh, look, he's going to roll over. Oh, no, he's not. A maximum of sort of 600 meters, and then eventually they get too tired to chase further than that, and they'll give up the hunt. Their tactic, or their way that they try and chase prey, is that they almost try and speed past it, flick their foot out, try and apologies about that, try and knock its back foot out from underneath it, and then almost in that speed process overtake it and then get onto the throat. So I can't. Because he's got his feet tucked up nicely there in the bushes. But cheetahs are completely and utterly designed for speed. So over time, relative to lions, they've actually evolved large nasal passages, so a little bit less space in their mouth for really, really large teeth. That's why they can only go for medium-sized prey to smaller, whereas the lion and the leopard can go for slightly larger prey. But that nasal cavity, just the larger nasal cavity, allows more oxygen in to get to those muscles to go at speed. Otherwise, if they push themselves too far, they actually get a lactic acid buildup, which is what they're trying to avoid. And then a very flexible spine and quite a thick tail that they'd use as a rudder. So when they want to change direction quickly, their tail almost helps them do that. But they can't afford or risk injury, which also puts them lower down on the pecking order when it comes to the cats. So if they had a leopard, a hyena, or even a lion approach them now, they'd move out of the area quite quickly. They wouldn't stand their ground and want to fight, because they can't risk an injury, because then they can't successfully hunt. And then another one of those adaptations to reduce glare is that tear marking that you see from the eye going down the face and around the nose. More noticeable if they're facing you, but you can see it there, that dark black line. So they're carrying on panting. I think we're going to leave these guys. I don't think with having full bellies we're going to see anything out of them other than exactly what we've just seen. So we're going to move on and see if we can find you something else for this afternoon.
Welcome back to andBeyond Phinda, where 3 giraffe have become 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 giraffes. There's a whole group of them that have all come down to the water, and it's absolutely incredible to see them. Some of them even standing in the water. This middle one that's busy drinking now, it's standing in the water up to its ankles. Basically flicking water at each other. Did you see that? They're both finishing off their drink at the same time and facing towards each other and inadvertently flicking water at each other. That was amazing. But look at how much more relaxed these younger giraffes are now. So most of the ones that joined all look like older adult females, and they've almost brought a bit of calm to the situation here, or to the scene, and the youngsters have relaxed a little bit, feeling a bit safer in the company of some larger adult giraffes. Of course, their necks being a little bit longer, and then being a little bit more, well, necks being longer, being able to see a bit further, and also being older, having a bit more experience with predators. And who knows, some of these females might be the mothers of the 3 youngsters that were here earlier. So that might be another factor that's making the youngsters feel a bit more secure. And how magnificent is that black sky above the tower, or above the towering giraffes? Very ominous scene. But it's absolutely mesmerizing.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, we have moved because our roadblock moved, and now we can reveal exactly why they moved so quickly from quarantine to here. They just met up with everybody. All 14 are accounted for. Now this is a proper roadblock. What we had there was just a police officer waving you, flagging you down. Everybody is together. A lot of snoozing going on, but a lot of social bonding as well. Grooming. Lots of cuddles. A few bites here and there. A really, really gorgeous scene. So you know the signs that we'll be looking for? We'll be looking for stretches like that, yawns, urinating and defecating if they're going to make a move, but for now everybody is just chilling. What a beautiful sight. Bronny, you say it's a lion carpet? Absolutely. The rare African lion carpet. Oh, there's a yawn. I must say, sitting here, I've been yawning so much. I wonder if we can yawn when we see other animals yawn as well. Because when they're yawning, I'm busy yawning. It's actually ridiculous. We have another piece of the carpet. Where will you go and which gap will you fill? Oh yes, extend the carpet. They're wonderful to watch, and I haven't seen and spent time with lions in a little bit. So it's nice to be able to see them. One of the nicest things about lions and having them at the beginning of the drive is that they're very unlikely to move. Which means that we can go off and look for other things, spend time other places, and come back in the evening, especially if they remain flat. I'm just going to grab that question again from you, please. I only just caught the name. I'm not 100% sure. Safitz, hi. Good afternoon. You'd like to know if this pride will break apart soon. Well, 14 mouths are a lot of mouths to feed, and that's excluding the Avoca male that comes along and hangs out with this pride, the dark-maned Avoca. So let's call it 15 mouths to feed. It is likely that they will split up at some point, but also remember that the males will disperse. And lion prides as large as double this, 30 members in a pride have been observed before. So really, in an area like this where there's a high prey density and the lion prides are eating well, they might persist for a little longer without actually breaking up. And like I said, the males will leave. There's 3 males sub-adults in this pride, but it still leaves a pretty big pride. Because then without the males, it would be 11 females. 11 adults or 11, they'll all be adults by that time. Just some a lot older. Which are a lot of mouths to feed. At which point they may feel that they want to split up. But doesn't necessarily mean that, because like I said, there have been records of lion prides much larger than this. Can you imagine seeing 30 lions just sitting here like that? That'll be a proper carpet. Well, now that they've all met up, like I said, I think they're unlikely to move very much, except for when they want to hunt. So I would love to go and have a scratch around for that leopard that was seen just south of Tumbeta. And then we can always come back here, so there'll be plenty of opportunity to see everything. And of course, I'll always stop for the small things as usual. All right, well, I'm going to be off and I'm going to send you over to Phinda and see what's happening on that side.
You're back with Glenn and I at andBeyond Phinda, and the giraffes have, just like the elephants, slowly started to trickle away from the water, having quenched their thirst, leaving just 2 giraffes. Lots of oxpeckers still hanging around, flying down onto the backs of these giraffes. And this one here on the far right, looking like she's still quite thirsty. Bending down once again to drink. Just having a look through my binoculars. Looking to see if I can see the water maybe going down her throat as she drinks, but a bit tough to see from this angle. Often because of how long that neck is, how far the water's got to travel down. I suppose it's easier to see when they're chewing the cud. You can often watch that little cud ball sliding up and down the throat as they regurgitate that food that they've taken in earlier to ruminate. Look at how she's looking off to the left at the rest of the giraffes that were here earlier. And my goodness me, they have been walking. I mean, they haven't been looking like they've been walking fast, but the amount of distance that they have covered in this short space of time is nothing short of incredible. Obviously, those long legs allowing them to travel relatively quickly, even though they don't look like they're moving very fast. I'm pretty sure that once she's done here, she'll move off in the same direction as them. Interestingly, look at how it's the same direction that the elephants took when they left. And we can still, or just now, we could still see those elephants also in the distance. Again, also amazing how fast those elephants move. Glenn was pointing out how quickly they had covered the ground between here and the next rise in the distance, moving off in search of food. Leaving just the 2 giraffes, and then of course the white rhino and her calf. Aidan, you're asking how tall a giraffe can get. Aidan, well, a big bull can be between 5.5 and 6 meters tall. So that's up to around 18 feet. That's massive. I don't know if you've ever been to a diving facility, like a competitive springboard diving facility or tower diving facility, and there's those 3 towers that you can dive off. The shortest one is about 5 meters tall, and I think the next one is 7.5 meters, and the last one, or the tallest one, is about 10 meters. So thinking about that giraffe's head, if he was standing next to the diving platform, he could put his head or touch the top of that platform with his head. That's how tall a big male giraffe can be. Have a look at these rhinos. Look at that calf on the left and how it's lying on its side. Having a lovely little nap there. Obviously very comfortable having mom nearby. Now, speaking earlier about the oxpeckers that were flying around the giraffes, look on the very top of this female rhino, on the rhino cow, the mother. On the top of her saddle there, can you see those little heads peeping up from behind, behind her saddle? Couple of oxpeckers. Red-billed oxpeckers. See those bright red bills and the yellow ring around their eyes? Ooh. But then see how the one on the right, or rather the one in the... Where's it gone now? There was one, I think it's the one that's in the dead center at the bottom of the saddle. See how that one's got a black bill? So that is a juvenile red-billed oxpecker, a young red-billed oxpecker. That's left the nest. Oh, the rhinos are coming towards us. Look at this. The little calf has stood up. Look at his two-tone coloration. His lower half, how dark it is, and then his upper half, how it's very light in color. It's a shame. He's obviously been lying in this pool of water. And he hasn't done it while we've been here. So that tells us that these rhinos must have been here before those elephants got here. Because the elephants, just like they kept the zebra away and kept the giraffe away, they were doing the same to the rhino. Even though these rhinos are obviously also very big animals, very powerful animals, they're still no match for an elephant bull. It's a shame. This little rhino calf must have been lying in the mud, and then he got his mud wallow, no doubt, rudely interrupted by the appearance of those 3 elephant bulls earlier. But they've been hanging around for a while now, and they went and had a quick little drink. But like I said, I presume that they must have been here a bit earlier as well, before the elephants. So they've probably already slaked their thirst. They would have lain down also. Doesn't look like mom did, but the youngster certainly looks like it had a bit of a lie down in the water. And of course rhinos, it's just like warthogs and buffalo, very fond of rolling, and of course of the elephants. Remember the elephant we saw earlier, the big old bull, and we saw how he'd thrown mud onto his back and behind his ears, onto his neck, onto his shoulders. Rhinos are also very partial to a mud wallow to help to keep themselves cool and help to rid themselves of parasites. But they also quite like lying down in water. And often on a hot day, a visit to a waterhole can be rewarded with the sight of 1 or 2, maybe more rhinos lying down in the water, just taking it easy. If it's a bigger waterhole, sometimes if there's terrapins in there, they often come up to the rhinos and pick the ticks off of them, just like the oxpeckers were doing. Henny, you're asking if rhinos will sleep standing up? Henny, they typically lie down. I don't know if you were able to see what that little rhino calf was doing earlier. That's typically what they'll do. They'll sleep. They'll lie down on what is, I suppose, their brisket. So they'll lie down kind of, not that their legs are tucked underneath them like a horse or a camel or a giraffe, but they'll lie kind of a bit onto their sides, onto that round belly, with the legs kind of, sometimes actually, funny enough, one of the legs might be underneath the body, and it often looks a bit uncomfortable. You can just imagine the rhino wakes up and it's got a dead leg or it's got pins and needles. I don't know if that actually does happen, but that's certainly how it looks, and certainly what one would imagine when there's 2 tons of rhino lying down on a leg. But yeah, so they'll typically lie down slightly on their side, but not completely, and then with normally the outer legs protruding from outside of the body, and then the inner 2 legs maybe tucked underneath. And I think that these 2 rhinos now, as the last of the animals that were drinking here, as they head off, this mother rhino is probably going to lead her calf down into the plains to go look for the best grazing. Aaron, you're asking if them lying on their side affects their breathing. So Aaron, they don't lie completely on their side where their lungs would be compressed by their own body weight. It's hard for me to explain, but I suppose the only way to put it would be that they lie on their brisket. So not a complete 90-degree flip, more of like a 45-degree flip, if that makes sense. I don't know, it seems to make sense in my head. I hope it made sense what I just said. But yeah, so kind of just tucked off to the side, but not completely on their side. So no, they normally breathe. They're able to breathe pretty normally while they're lying like that. But off they go, trotting down the hill and away into the distance. And like I said, I think that this mother rhino and her calf are going to go off in search of some food. Oh, there's still some giraffe that are down there in the distance. They've managed to find some tasty leaves to feed on. Okay, what a fantastic start to the afternoon though. I think that Glenn and I are going to leave the area of this waterhole, and we're going to go off in search of a pride of lions that was seen in this area at a different waterhole. But let's send you across to Trish in the meantime and see how her search is going.
Hi everybody. Just got some interesting news. So I think let's go to the Hyena Den. Someone's called in 6 cubs at the Hyena Den. And you know, I've been wanting that this evening, or today was my last drive for the stint. So if it is June's cub, that would be awesome. Or maybe somebody misidentified one of the younger ones, like Sutu or something. Let's go and find out. I'm going to respond and join you at the den. I know you're on your way out, and Paul, you're welcome to come in once I'm there. Okay, all good. Should be exciting. I was asking if there was, if one of the adults, there's 2 adults there and 6 mampinpans, so that should be very exciting, but wasn't able to tell if one of the adults had a floppy ear. So we'll just have to go look for ourselves, don't we? I was looking for tracks on our way, and I haven't found any coming down this side. Like I said, quarantine, the place to be this afternoon. I'll be so happy if June's cub is there. I'll be so happy. Meeting a brand new... Actually, you know what? If we don't have expectations, we won't get disappointed. So maybe it's just Sutu. And she's hanging about there. Although she doesn't generally hang out at the den. Anyway, we'll only know when we see. Aren't you excited? I'm excited. Here we are on the road that leads to the den. So glad that he called it in like that. Everyone's very excited. Yay! I am too. I'm so glad that they called it in like that. So often people just say, oh, Hyena Den's active or whatever, but Konoti always calls it in as he sees it. it's very exciting, and we're all holding our breath for this, but I think it's a good time to remind you to use that hashtag WildEarth or the YouTube chat stream. You've got to use @FC at the beginning of your question, or you can go onto our website and you can use the question box. I must tell you about the @FC thing. My parents decided that they wanted to try and leave a comment or question. And apparently a lot of you are very, very sweet on there because they just wrote it and didn't write @FC, and you all helped them. So thank you very much. That's very, very sweet of you all. And they were absolutely thrilled at all these people who were helping them and that knew who their daughter was. So yes, lesson there, use @FC. Just want to approach rather slowly. What's really nice is that obviously these animals are used to the vehicle because another vehicle has just left. So that means that June, if she's here, would be more comfortable. Stuck in bed, I'll do my Ninja Turtle fingers for you. 4 crosses. Okay. Odd. Heart. Actually, you know what? I prefer to be a little bit further away. Just to get a better overall view. If you don't mind. I don't see 6 bumping bonds though. Patience, patience, patience. Right. Okay, so June is definitely a notch here. Okay, because just when you came to me at the start of the segment, that's when it was called in. So there was all of, 4 minutes. Between now and then. Hello, Corky's little one. Don't worry. Coming round. But when he called in the 6 cubs, he also called in 2 adults. Well, there's only one. There's only Heart here. And it's the big reveal. Well, that was very exciting. I'm so disappointed we missed out. Oh my goodness. Oh well. We still have Heart, her 2, and Corky's little one. That would have been the greatest farewell for me if I got to see that. I do love them so much. But considering that 6th cub was out, maybe it'll pop its head up again. You know how curious these little things are. She looks like she's waiting for her little friend. Wonder if it's a little boy or a little girl. was that side glance? At least we know the cub is still here, so there's a possibility we'll see it. It's just that June is not here, so it's a less of a possibility, but the possibility is there still. I'm so disappointed. You can hear very soft falling of the rain. Thank you, everyone. FC's just told me everyone's feeling very bad for me. Thank you, guys. But your sympathy's not going to bring the cub out. No, that was very harsh. Thank you, guys. But patience pants, a waiting game. It always is this way in the bush. Diana, you'd like to know if I can identify which hyena cub belongs to which hyena? Yep. It's very easy at the moment because of their faces. Actually, that's such a difficult thing to describe. Obviously, size. So the two biggest ones are ribbons too, and they're big enough to not need a comparison. You don't need them with the other cubs to be able to make that comparison. Then Corky's one that we're looking at right now. She's the littlest of them, and she's also small enough that you don't need the others around to make a comparison. And in that way, it only leaves the two that are medium-sized that belong to Heart. So it's a process of elimination, but your mind's doing that so quickly in a split second. So it's very easy to see who's who. Also, ribbons too are very fluffy. And Shimbulu has a very darkened face, and Ngwazi has less of a dark face. Both are very, very fluffy. One's more spotted than the other. Hearts too. One has a strip. It's the male that has a very dark kind of back end, and the female doesn't. And then with Corky's one, she's just so unique. She's still pretty dark and she's small. So it's easy at the moment to tell them apart. And then as they grow, you'll be able to use their spot patterns much more easily. You can still use them now. I mean, their spots are showing for all the cubs at the moment. We haven't seen June's one, obviously. But for all these cubs, the spots are showing. So we can even use spot patterns. And as they get older, we'll be able to do that and use that because their spots won't change. They're just close together because their bodies are small. So when they grow, the space between those spots grows, but the spot pattern does not change. So when they're older, we can't really use this one's bigger than that, or this one's fluffier than that one. We'll use their spot patterns. Hey, gorgeous girl. It's really easy for me to identify Sotho, Swazi, and Ndebele from the 2018 cohort, shall we say. And that's because we watch them grow for as long as they've been alive. And we know their spot patterns well. And as you watch, you will also be able to tell the difference very easily. Moon Dust, you'd like to know if Heart's cubs are females? No, she has one male and one female. The male has a black band around his tail and quite a dark, all the spots are quite close together on his back. So he's he's a little bit darker to me, as in the spots are close together, and then the female is a little lighter. But she has a male and a female cub. Yes, I suppose when there's nothing else to play with, just gotta keep yourself entertained, right? Strange and cute and just marvelous creatures, aren't they? Michael, you say you're hoping for another girl for June. So am I. I mean, I know what you mean. You're hoping it for June, but I don't know why. But I'm hoping it for Corky's little one. I don't know. I feel that there'll be. Oh, but you know, Michael, like we think about these things and think about the future of the Djuma clan and all this stuff because we're so attached to them. And I feel like I can see a future of June's cub and Corky's little one here, having this alliance and being one of them being the matriarch of the Djuma clan in the future. My money is on this one. But, you know, Michael, we'll just have to wait and see, right? Look at that precious face. Just look at it. Oh, too cute, too cute. Don't do this to me. Please can you bring out your friend? Your new friend? Just gorgeous. All right, well, we're going to sit and wait. And there's some thunder rumbling in the distance, but we're going to sit here and wait for as long as we can.
Have you been watching WildEarth and dreamt of being right there on safari with one of the guides? Well, now you can. WildEarth is offering you a chance to buy a ticket to dream. You or a friend can hop on board a live WildEarth show and join our guide on safari. The ticket is redeemable at any of our locations, anytime in the future. Only a limited number of tickets are available, so don't wait. Get your ticket now and start dreaming. Terms and conditions apply.
My name is Lauren, and I'm currently working in Djuma Private Game Reserve here in South Africa. I love answering your questions during the live safaris. It's my favorite part. It feels like you're on the vehicle with me, and I'm able to teach you exactly what you want to know. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, you must go to the live safari page and ask your question below the live feed. Welcome to my car. This is Wendy, and she's my favorite. She would love to have your name engraved on her so you can be with her every single time she goes on a safari here in Djuma. If you become a WildEarth explorer, you will have the opportunity to buy an engraved tag which we will attach to her. We will make sure to send you a digital picture to show you exactly where you are sitting on her. You will have front row seat in every single sighting.
We've seen these ellies really chase wild dogs before. Let's get into spot. There we go, here it comes. Look at that, isn't that amazing?
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
So the other vehicle that saw the 6 cubs, I was just chatting to him and he's confirmed that one cub was very small and full black. So it most definitely was June's cub that is in there, in that den. And today is going to be the day. I think so. Interesting that Heart was here and the cub was out. considering Heart's response to June in the past. But remember, we always say hierarchy is important, rank is important in their social structure, but at the end of the day, they're all clan members. Now it is the waiting game. Hi Matthew, you'd like to know why they're black when they're born? That's a really good question. They're dark when they're born, or at least the explanation or the theory is that they're black when they're born because they live in a den for the first few weeks exclusively. They'll stay in the den with only heads popping out, and their mum will be sinking her bottom into the den to feed them, like we've seen with June. And if a predator manages to get into the den, or something manages to get to the cub, the den is a dark place, so it'll be more difficult for the cub to be seen once it runs into its den, which is its safe spot, its safe space. Remember that time when the lion and the lioness was here, and this little girl managed to just escape? She ran to the den, even though the lioness was standing between her and the den. She ran straight into the den. And the dark coloration of the very young hyenas means that once they're in that den, even if a predator digs, even if it forces its way in, it'll be very dark and very difficult to see. And then once they become more exposed, the spots start to appear. By 3 months, spots are appearing. That darkness is gone. You can see this girl still got her back legs are still a little bit dark, but the rest of her you can see very clearly that she's lightening up and her spots are starting to show. I'm waiting patiently for this baby hyena to come out, but we have a baby giraffe at one of our other locations.
Welcome back to andBeyond Phinda. And just speaking of baby animals, have a look at this little zebra foal here in front of us. Is that not the cutest little thing? Look at it. Little ears. And doing little head nods. It is so cute. Look at that little face. A perfect little miniature version of Mum. Oh my word, that's so cute. Look what it's doing now. It might go and try and suckle. Oh my goodness, look at that. That's too precious. And that is a very small little zebra, everyone. Very small. And Glenn and I was just discussing how old we think it might be. And there's a couple of clues. Obviously, it's tiny size. It's very small. Obviously, the fact that it's still suckling. But there's another factor. So Trish was just talking now about the different colors, or how baby animals are often a different color to their parents. Have a close look at this little zebra foal now that its rear end is facing towards us. Look especially at the base of the tail and the top of the rump, the top of the hips there. look at how fluffy it is. Look at how long the hair is, almost like the hair on the back of a newborn cheetah cub. And it gives the zebra foal a much lighter colour. It's almost like covered in like this downy baby fluff. And they typically lose that as they get older. And this little foal, despite how small it is, it looks like it's already started to lose its baby fluff. If it turns sideways, or faces us, even better, have a look at its neck and its chest. See how different the colour is in the front of its body compared to its back half. It's almost like a two-toned, well, I mean, apart from the obvious of it being black and white and being two-toned, but look at how the back part is a lot fluffier and a lot lighter in colour than the front part. Another thing that we were talking about, Glenn and I, is have a look at how long this baby zebra's legs are in relation to its body. Of course, now it goes and stops behind a bush where it's tough for us to see. But I don't know if you were able to see, just as it crossed the road, its belly is basically the same height off of the ground as what its mother's belly is. And remember earlier we were talking about how those zebras that were drinking, how they'd be very vulnerable to attack by predators like lions. Imagine for this foal how vulnerable it would be. Being much smaller, a much easier target for a lioness. But with it having such long legs in relation to its body, it's able to run faster. Those long legs give it a bit of a bigger stride, enabling it to run and to keep up with mum and the rest of the herd. But also, that little foal is standing obviously now on the right-hand side of mom. But imagine, look at that zebra on the left of mom, that's kind of side on to us. Imagine if that foal were to go and stand behind that zebra. We would not be able to see it. We'd be able to see its legs, but we wouldn't be able to see that there's a very small zebra standing there. And the idea, or the theory, is that that helps to keep this zebra as inconspicuous as possible in terms of predators noticing it. Of course, a predator, like we were saying, if they were to see a young animal moving around, they know how vulnerable young animals are, and they know how much easier it will be for them to take the youngster down. But if that little foal moves into the herd, those long legs and that belly being so high up off of the ground will give it that advantage in terms of avoiding detection by predators. Isn't that amazing how lanky that little zebra foal is? Painted Dognut, you're asking a very interesting question. You're asking if this zebra will stay with its herd for its whole life. Painted Dognut, that depends on its gender. So if it's a female, there's a good chance that... Oh, look, it's yawning. There's a good chance that it will stay within this herd, unless it gets kidnapped. That sounds quite strange, but that is typically what happens. Ooh, that female zebra getting a little bit upset with that other zebra being near to her foal. So typically what happens, Painted Dognut, within zebra harems, is that when a young stallion is ready to start his own harem, he will often go to other harems and he'll try and, there isn't really a better term for it, I suppose. He'll literally try and kidnap young females, young mares from other males' harems to start his own harem. Of course, genetically, it won't really make sense for a stallion to want to mate with his daughter. I suppose it might happen every now and then. It might happen, but that's just the way that zebra society works. Is that a young male wanting to start his own group will go and kidnap a mare from another group. Of course, if it's a male, it will leave this harem once it gets to an age where its father wants it out. I suppose very similar to the lion, or to the dynamics of lions that we're going to go and look for this afternoon. But I hope that answers your question, Painted Dognut. So, yeah, if it's a female, it might stay within the herd. If it's a male, it will definitely move out. But even if it is a female, it might get kidnapped. So look at Mom now busy grazing away. And while she's doing that, I'm going to see if we can try and film. There's a couple of absolutely beautiful birds that have been flying around the zebra and calling. And there's one that has just flown off of the ground into a tree just off to the right. I don't know if you can see it there, Glenn. There we go, well done. There's a European roller, everybody, perched up on the edge of that thorn tree. Is that not just the most...
That blackbird.
And there's a... Ooh, I can't quite see from here.
I'm on the roller and there's a blackbird that's just flown away.
Oh, I can't...
I'm on the roller.
Oh, okay, there we go. There we go, that beautiful blue, the European roller. And many of you will be very familiar with the lilac-breasted roller, a very brilliantly coloured bird, that resident that lives, was found in many of the bushveld areas, the savanna areas of South Africa. And this European roller, a close relative of it, but a migratory bird that has flown down from, as the name suggests, from Europe to come and feed here in Southern Africa on the abundance of insects that the grasslands and the savannas down here attract. And we've been remarking this afternoon at how many we've been seeing. I've never ever seen this many European rollers here at andBeyond Phinda. I suppose every year with the migratory birds coming back, there'll be different proportions of them coming back, and they might use slightly different areas, especially if they're not breeding. Like we get some migratory birds that come back to South Africa to breed over the summer months, and then like these European rollers, there are some that just come here to feed. And for the ones that breed, I suppose they're often a bit more specific with where they go back to. Often birds like the Wahlbergs, eagles that we've been seeing, they come back to the same areas to nest in the same nests because they're sure that they're going to get enough food to feed their chicks. They're sure that they're going to have that nest in that ideal spot. For these rollers, it's more just about finding the best food, so they'll move around a bit more often. And sometimes we get lots of them, and sometimes we get very few of them. Like last year, this time, I think I maybe saw 2 or 3 of them in the space of a couple of months. And already in the last 24 hours, I've lost count of how many I've seen. And they're so pretty. That lovely aquamarine turquoisey color. Just absolutely brilliant. And so, yeah, it's perched up there on that stick, scanning down towards the ground. And I mentioned earlier all the insects that these grasslands and these savannas will attract, and that's exactly what that roller is looking for. It's hunting from a perch. Ooh, that one looks like it's spotted something. Do you see how it just turned its head? Turning its head from side to side. There we go, flying. Leapin, you're saying that's awesome. Leapin, I agree with you. Oh, that one's... Are you on those ones in front of us there, Glenn? Sorry, I've been looking at the wrong roller. There's 3 European rollers in this scene. That's how many of them there are. I can't believe it. But that one at the bottom of the tree there looked like it actually caught something. And there's a 4th one in the distance. My goodness, we're surrounded by European rollers. They're all over the place. And it's very interesting to note, and it'll be tough, and hopefully over the next couple of weeks we can show you this, because for now they're a little bit too far away for us to see. But through my binoculars, looking at all these different ones, some of them are more brightly colored than others. And of course, these birds having migrated so far, all the way from Europe, that often migration, you can imagine it takes it out of the birds in terms of energy consumption, but also it's quite a heavy toll that it takes on their plumage. So the feathers are often quite worn and often look quite dull, or relatively dull when they arrive. But even now, going through my bird book, I've just been seeing that there's apparently 2 different populations that migrate from different parts of the northern hemisphere of Europe and Asia, that migrate down here into southern Africa. And the one population tends to look a bit more drab than the other. So just now, there's this one roller that I can see off to my right that looks a bit more brightly coloured than those 2 that are in that tree there. It could also be that they're just a bit more worn out, that their plumage is just a bit more worn after their great migration. Could be that they're younger birds, they haven't developed into their full-blown adult plumage just yet. And they've still got a molt to go to get that wonderful coloration of a mature adult. It's just so fantastic seeing, it's wonderful seeing all of these large mammals, but then these birds bringing these splashes of color. Swazirands, you're asking if most of the migratory birds we get here are from Eurasia, Europe and Asia. I suppose most of them are. We do have quite a few birds that come, quite a few migratory birds that do come down here to breed. Those tend to come from further north in Africa, the ones that breed. So things like woodland kingfishers, Wahlberg's eagles, yellow-billed kites, broad-billed rollers. Those birds all migrate down here to breed. Oh, things like cuckoos, like African cuckoos, great spotted cuckoo, Jacobin cuckoo. But then birds like this European roller, most of the waders, the massive variety of waders that arrive, or that have already arrived. Let me think what else. The common buzzards, all of those birds that are not coming here to breed, those all do come from Eurasia. And just off the top of my head, I can think of more non-breeding migrants that are coming from Eurasia than I can of breeding migrants coming from further north in Africa. That's just off the top of my head, though. Doing an actual count might take a bit long for this segment. But how fantastic was that to get to see that little zebra foal, and then also just to appreciate the splash of colour of all of these European rollers. As I sit here and speak, I can see more and more European rollers appearing. But I think for now, though, I think Glenn and I are going to leave these rollers and the zebra, and we're going to carry on in search of our lions. Let's go across to Trish at Djuma to see what those hyenas are up to.
I'm sorry if I sent you across to Damon with the expectation of seeing a little giraffe. I meant to say zebra. Promise. Here we have this, just the cutest hyena cub in the world here. And she's been watching the Egyptian geese as they've flown by, and then she watched the lilac-breasted roller fly by. She's just... I hate to say it, but maybe just a little bit cuter than the others. I don't know. I'm just putting it out there. Looks like she needs a chalkboard, and then she could write some stuff for us like, "Hi viewers, thank you for all your compliments." It's little actions like that near the den entrance that can entice that other little one out. Yonella, you'd like to know which animal hyenas are closely related to? Hyenas are in their own family, Hyenidae, but they fall into a group called Filiformia, or Filiforms, which means that they're more closely related to cats than dogs. But the animal that you would be familiar with that they are most closely related to are mongoose and civets. They share a common ancestor most recently. But of course, the closest relatives of spotted hyenas are the hyenas. Spotted hyenas branched out from other hyenas in Hyenidae most recently. So in Hyenidae, we have the aardwolf, we have brown hyena, striped hyena, and spotted hyena. And their closest relatives are civets and the mongoose, all of which fall into the group of filiforms. That means cat-like animals. So they're not true cats, but they are cat-like animals. They're so unique that they needed their own family of Hyena Den. They could not fall into Felidae or Canidae, any of those. They had their own unique group. The group with civets and creatures like that, we call those mastelids. And they've shared a common ancestor most recently than with any of the others. Butch, you'd like to know how deep this den is? I wish I could tell you very accurately, but unfortunately not. It's probably about 2 meters deep, maybe 2.5 meters deep. A termite mound and everything that is going on below the surface of it, it's kind of like an iceberg. You see this termite mound and this is maybe just 30% of it. And there's a whole lot of network underneath, but the hyenas don't need to dig that far under the ground and don't need to use tunnels that far under the ground. So what they'll have there is maybe 2.5 meters deep from that entrance, like I said, with a bit of a pedestal in the center, so that if it floods, they can be higher than the deepest section. And there may be a few tunnels, like we know that this entrance and the southwestern facing entrance are connected. The entrance that she's actually moving towards now. They're connected, so one can go in this side and out the other side. What you looking for? So she's gone into that other entrance now. These guys peacefully having a bit of a suckle. I feel like maybe Corky's little girl was hoping that they'd stop and play with her. But unfortunately, some warm milk on this damp afternoon is slightly more enticing than playing with that little thing. Chrissy, you'd like to know how we tell male and female hyenas apart? It's very difficult because they both have the genitals that resemble male genitals. So the males have a penis and the females have a pseudo-penis, which look almost exactly the same. So basically, if you want to find out if it's a male or female, you gotta have a good inspection. A very good and thorough inspection of their nether regions. But what you want to look out for is in the male, they obviously have a long penis that has the end of it, the head of that penis is actually necked quite deeply, so it looks sharp. Whereas the females, about the same size, but it doesn't have as sharp a neck and not as sharp a head. And then also they have a pseudo-scrotum. With the males, it's an actual scrotum, and with the females, it's just fat, and it's less deeply sectioned than with the males. So obviously you can imagine that it's a very difficult task, but once you get used to it, you're able to tell a little bit better, more accurately than if you're just learning about hyenas. When the female has had cubs, that's a lot easier because her pseudopenis becomes a lot more kind of shapeless. Still does have shape, but less shape than the males does. And it's easier to tell. And then obviously if she's suckling cubs, then she's a female. If she's given birth to cubs, then she's a female. Also remember that before Ntima was born to Ribbon, Ribbon was thought to be male. So lots and lots of mistakes have happened when it comes to sexing hyenas, especially at the cub stage. But it doesn't hurt to have an idea, and then, you know, if that changes and they grow and we see differences, then we chat about those then. Sometimes it can be a really pleasant surprise. Imagine we suddenly see Swazi with cubs and think, oh, well, we know we've made a mistake there. As a general rule as well, female hyenas are larger than males, but that's only really helpful if you have them together and you can see a comparison. I really hope that we'll be lucky here. But as I said when we were coming here, let's not have an expectation. I won't be disappointed. Unfortunately, I already had my expectations. I was already very excited. But you never know, do you? Although with the rain coming down, it's likely that they'll try to seek shelter in the den. Matthew, we were just chatting, well, I just mentioned that. You said the hyenas like the rain. They definitely don't mind it. Remember, to animals that are out here in the bush, there's no escape from the rain, there's no escape from the elements, so they don't have a preference for or against. It's just whether something bothers them or not, or they feel uncomfortable or not. But it doesn't affect their survival. The cubs, however, they are used to being able to seek shelter in the rain, because they'll go into the den and they'll see that there's a difference between being in the den and being outside of the den. And then they'll form a preference, usually, to be in the den when it rains. But the adults have lost the capacity to be able to go into a den and to be able to feel the difference and recognize a difference. So for them, being in the rain or not being in the rain is not a big deal. Cats don't particularly like the rain. They'll prefer to walk on the road if grass is wet. Prefer to sit on termite mounds if it's wet and cold, because termite mound vents can be nice and warm. But that doesn't mean that it's going to change their behavior much more drastically than just, I'm going to sit on this mound instead of sitting on the grass. It's not enough to change their behavior. If they're hunting or they're moving from one space to another, they're not going to suddenly not do that because they'll have to walk through wet grass. But if it makes no difference, then they'll prefer to walk on the road than in wet grass. Corky's little cubby has gone into the other entrance. I think we'll be lucky. I'm still crossing fingers, everybody. I'm still crossing fingers for this little cub to show itself to us.
Welcome back to andBeyond Phinda. Glenn and I have been driving quite steadily west from that little waterhole that we started off at, where a pride of lions had been seen a little bit earlier today. We've now cut north, and we've managed to get away from the scary looking storm clouds that were building up over the escarpment to the west of andBeyond Phinda. And have a look at this magnificent scenery. We're now coming up to the base of what is the start of the Ubomba mountain range. Look at those beautiful, lush green, grassy slopes. And then the densely foliaged tops of the ridges, almost like little mini forests. There's quite a few different bird species calling, so I can hear the different birds calling in the valley below. There's a green-backed Camaroptera, a golden-tailed woodpecker, a rattling cisticola, there's an orange-breasted bush shrike, that was a bad imitation, a brown-crowned chagra, just so pretty and green.
Still a lot of rain, or the sounds of rain and not much else. I just heard the emerald spotted wood dove. There it goes. But not much movement otherwise. I do really want to stick it out, just in case, if we can be lucky. I know that there's not much action here, but we could be lucky, and that would be just awesome to see another addition to the Djuma clan. If I hear anything, of course, we'll go and check it out. But for now, everything is quite quiet. Not hearing lions call, not hearing leopards call, not hearing elephants at the nearby dam. So I'm gonna just sit tight. I hope that you don't mind. It would just be very special for me and for all of you if we could see the cub. It would be the best present for last drive for the year. Oh, that sounds so dramatic. Imagine to these animals it means nothing. I always like to think about that sometimes. You know, we have boundaries and, you know, this boundary, that boundary, we can't cross this boundary, and they just exist for us. Just like these stints, one person going and leaving and coming back and all of that. Different periods of the year, public holidays, celebrations, all of that just affects us, and for these animals, they have none of that. That's not a sad thing. In fact, it's quite a liberating thing. They just are. Doesn't matter what day it is. Doesn't matter who's sitting here. Butch, you'd like to know what hunts hyenas? So first, let's define hunt. let's define, hunt, that would imply that an animal will seek out a hyena. Not just an opportunistic act on killing a hyena. Nothing will hunt a hyena. Just like nothing will hunt a leopard, nothing will hunt a lion. Because they are apex predators. But that doesn't mean that if a lion comes across a hyena, that he won't try to eliminate it. Because they will. But you know that if hyenas outnumber lions, especially lionesses, they can chase them off a kill. But if a lioness comes across this den, if a leopard comes across this den, and a cub is out, they'll no doubt take it. And the same vice versa for any of the top predators. And that's because eliminating a cub is eliminating competition. They're all after that same resource, herbivores. But nothing seeks out a hyena to kill and consume it. If there's a dead hyena, other hyenas will eat it, lions will eat it, leopard may eat it, but they will not seek it out and hunt it. It's the benefit of being at the top, is that the only time you've got to watch your back, or the only thing you're watching your back for, is other top predators that are in competition with you. Kind of like a strange example, but some random person on the street, they might be scared of somebody attacking them or mugging them or any one of those crimes. But if you were this mafia boss, which I like to think of the hyena clan, particularly Corky, as some sort of mafiosa, then you're not watching your back for those that are mugging and those that are vandalizing. You're only watching your back from other gangsters. Once you're in that top tier is all that matters. Little corkster is out again. The name Corky and the whole way that hyena clans work, for me, is very godfathery, very mafia-y. And though she may not be the daughter of the Matriarch, she may still be, like a Corleona or something, if there is such a position. A bit of a change of position here, changing it up, guys. Look at this action. But it's not as great. Oh, actually it is. Damon's got action too, and he's got some lions.
Welcome back to andBeyond Phinda. Glenn and I have succeeded in our mission of trying to find this pride of lions. Look at that. A lioness and her two cubs lying out in the open, just taking in the cool breeze of the afternoon. Oh, look at that stretch. Stretching those big paws out. Isn't that just fantastic? And so nice that they're lying out in the open. Like I said, there's a lovely cool breeze that's blowing. It seems to be blowing from the east or the northeast in the direction of that storm that's to our west and southwest. The wind is relatively cool. And I said earlier how hot today was. So for these lions, being able to lie in this cool air must be absolute bliss. Oh, look at that cub's face, how it's looking at us. Look at those eyes, highlighted by those white lines underneath. Really make those eyes stand out. Almost like makeup, like I suppose the same effect as having mascara under your eyes. I don't know if any of you noticed, just a little bit earlier, a moment ago, that cub that was looking at us, that is now falling asleep, was looking over its shoulder in the direction of a bush. And when we arrived, it was not this lioness that we saw first. It was a lion lying under that bush there. There's at least 2 other lions. And I couldn't see their torsos, but I could see, I'm sorry for the graphic image, but all I could see was the base of a tail and genitals. So it's definitely male lions. But whether it's the sub-adult males of this pride or the 2 dominant males is yet to be seen. And I think that only time will tell. We could try to get a bit of a better view, but the thicket is so dense, the grass is so thick there, and there's that massive, it looks like a thorny karee, that bush that's growing there. Oh, I just saw some movement in that bush. I just saw a head lift. And from that movement, oh, maybe it wasn't a head, maybe it was a leg. I just saw something moving in there. So maybe, and look at how the cubs are looking in that direction. They've heard the movement. They're anticipating being joined by more lions. It could be, if it's the 2 big males, then it's the fathers of these cubs. If it's the 2 sub-adult, if it's sub-adult males, it's the cousins of these cubs. Either way, they'll be welcome. But I'm sure as the temperature drops, and I don't know if you can see how the light has already faded a little bit here, as it gets darker and cooler, those lions might come out. Kendra, you're asking about which pride of lions this is. Kendra, we're in the far southwest of the reserve, and the pride of lions that lives in this part of the reserve, the pride of lions that these lions belong to, is a pride that we know as the Bayala pride. And these are the 2 youngest members of the Bayala pride, a little male and a little female cub that were born earlier this year. Just trying to do the maths in my head quickly. If I'm not mistaken, born around May or June, so around about 6 or 7 months old. I can't believe it. It's been quite a while since I've seen these little lions, and I cannot believe how big they've gotten. It's been a long time since I've seen them, and the amount of growing they've done is unbelievable. I think most impressive of all is those paws. Have a look at that cub on the far right, everybody. Let Glenn zoom in there for you. But look at the size of those paws. I don't know if any of you have had a puppy or a kitten at home and you see how big those little paws are, how they're too big. Look at that paw, it's huge. It's as if it's showing off to us, saying, yeah, I know you're talking about my paws, I'm going to show you just how big they are. Oh, the lioness has lifted her head. And she's looking off to the right. They're lying very close to a dried up waterhole, everybody. I did not know that it was dried up. I thought that it did have water in it. Like I said, it's been a while since I've A, seen these lions, and B, been to this part of the reserve. But that would be why these lions would be resting here. The water hole, the water attracting animals, but also just the open space that comes with a water hole. Of course, when there's water in a relatively dry area, all the animals are going to come here to drink, and all that activity is going to trample the grass, trample the saplings of trees, and it's going to cause a bit more open space to develop. And lions typically like to lie in areas or to rest in areas where they can see their surroundings, to keep a lookout for potential prey, but also to keep an eye out for potential enemies. Lions don't like being snuck up on. I suppose no animal does. But yeah, they often like to rest in areas where they can keep their awareness about them. Katie, you're asking if lion cubs ever fight with each other, and Katie, yes, they do. Although these two are siblings, they'll show like a lot of sibling love, like licking each other, rubbing each other's faces against each other. But then when it comes to food, Katie, there's often a lot of competition, because when it comes to eating, it's every lion for itself. So even though two cubs might one moment be lying on top of each other and playing in a very peaceful way, when it comes to food, both of those lions are going to be looking after only their best interests. So they'll bite each other, they'll stick their claws into each other, they'll often they'll paw each other with their claws out. You can watch those big claws dig into their siblings' skulls, and oh my goodness, it can be quite vicious. And even a cute little lion cub like that can make quite a terrifying growling sound when it comes to having to defend its spot at the carcass. And when these cubs were smaller, Mom would have been a lot more kind of lenient with them. She would have allowed them to eat. Even the big males. I've even watched the big males give the cubs a chance to eat without being very aggressive. Now though, with these cubs being this size, maybe these cubs are still young enough, but when the cubs get older, even though the males are their fathers, they'll bat them around and smack them and growl at them and kind of bully them at the carcass. Like I said, it's every lion for itself. But that's typically, Katie, when the cubs will fight with each other, is over food. I've actually watched once, and pardon me, I think I have told you guys the story before, but for those of you that haven't heard it, I've watched once before where there was actually one of the two dominant males that moves or that often comes to this pride. He was busy feeding on a giraffe that the lionesses had killed, and once he had gorged himself, he moved off, and the cubs moved in, and the cubs started to feed, and there were two male cubs in this particular litter, and both of them were feeding at the same time, and the slightly bigger of the two cubs decided that he wanted his brother's part of the carcass, and he tried to bump him out the way, and his brother wasn't having any of it. So this massive growling match ensued, and eventually it escalated to a fight where both of them let go of the carcass, and they both climbed into each other, and they were biting each other and clawing each other. And at one stage, the slightly bigger male actually grabbed a hold of his brother's the slightly bigger male actually grabbed a hold of his brother's.
Sorry about that, guys. Hope we'll get Phinda back in a bit. Having an awesome lion sighting there with Damon. Here things are a little bit quiet, but Franklin, busy mooching about close by, has gotten the attention of Heart only. I was hoping that maybe Corky's little one was also a little bit curious about it, but it appears she's more interested in having a bit of a snooze today. Oh, she gave me a side-eye. Okay, I won't make assumptions about what your interests are this afternoon. I don't know if you can hear the slight of the Franklin as it's moving in the grass. Not a care. Just waiting for Mum so I can get some milk too. Heart's ones look like they will probably finish feeding soon. Once they're getting up and then going back and then getting up and going back. Just a little bit of movement. Now we're talking. Ngwazi has emerged with the sound of the Franklin. Delian, you'd like to know why do hyena cubs feed for so long? That's actually a good question, because we were thinking about that a little bit while you were with Damon. She must not feed them as often. So how often do we see Heart feeding them? Maybe once a day. Maybe their requirement is to be fed more than once a day. Or as it's not a requirement of how often they're fed, but how much they're fed. I mean, she's producing a lot of milk to feed both these guys. But then also remember, when we see them walking around, the female hyenas, they're big, and their mammary glands really, really hang low, and they're full of milk. And also perhaps the rate at which milk can actually be expressed is slower. But these are all just thoughts on why it could be that they feed for so long, because they really do. They sit there and feed for a long, long time. I think that she produces a lot of milk. Let's just step on Mum while I'm feeding. She produces a lot of milk, and the rate at which it comes out is slow. That's what I think. It's been over... Has it been over an hour? Almost over an hour that they've been sitting there feeding. I feel like our chances are getting better and better, because Ngwazi's come out now. Bess, so you'd like to know how many females share a den? There's usually a communal den that will be shared by all or most of the females in the clan. Not always. And sometimes if the smell of cub and hyena has become too strong, then she'll move away to another den. Or if there's just high-ranking members at this den, and she's not getting the opportunity to feed her cubs as often because she's getting harassed and chased and stuff like that, then she can move her cub away from this den. But they'll try to all use a communal den the majority of the time, unless there's those circumstances where the survival of the cub is jeopardized by being at that den. But this is the communal den, so not all cubs will be born at this den. For example, June's cubs were not born, or June's cub was not born at this den. Heart's cubs were not born at this den. They were brought here. Then they would have been born at a separate den. Corky's one, I think it was born here. Ribbon's ones, I think they were born here too. Or maybe even the den that's close by. Like, there's another den 50 to 100 meters. No, 100 meters away. And sometimes they swap between the two. In fact, Heart's ones were seen at that den sometimes as well. So as many as the den can host, that's as many cubs that will make use of it, and therefore their mothers too. So at the moment there's 4 hyena mums using this den. Corky, Ribbon, Heart, and June. Remember, it doesn't matter to them about the den use. All that matters is as long as their cub is not losing out or missing out on some sort of feeding space or shade, that kind of thing. As long as the cub is not missing out on those things as a result of being at this den, then it doesn't really matter to the mother. Because she's only here when the cubs when the cubs are around and to circle them. Or if she just wants to relax, it's a familiar place. But otherwise, she's roaming around her territory. Yay! Damon is back. And I believe he had a story that he was trying to tell you before we got cut off. So let's go and let him continue.
Thanks, Trish. Yeah, glad that we were able to get everything back again. I suppose we're going to have to finish that story. So to try and work our way back to where we left off. So we had just had the slightly bigger male cub grab his brother by the back of the head, and this fight got really intense, and they were growling and snarling, and their tails were flicking over their backs and wishing all over the place, and there was this most horrendous sound coming from these two cubs as they were growling and snarling in anger and in pain. And this carried on for maybe 10, 20, 30 seconds. The big male ran away from it, and it was so intense that one of the lionesses, one of the mothers, actually got up and came and stood. She literally stood over them, with them underneath her belly, and she started to roar. She started to give these full-blown roars. And then the cubs separated. They let go, and they each went to their own little part of what remained of the giraffe and carried on eating. And that was my eyes were like this afterwards. I couldn't believe that these little cubs had that kind of ferocity in them already at that age. I mean, they weren't small. They were probably about maybe a little bit older than these cubs when this happened. But it was yeah, it was really amazing to see. So it looks like I've had a couple more glimpses of that mystery lion that's in that bush. I've just seen a back leg lift up here and there, and I saw a front paw just now. In fact, now the lion is currently lying on its back, but all I can see is a front paw that's kind of lying. I don't know if any of you have ever seen a lion when it lies on its back with its legs splayed, and it's got its one front paw, looks like its front left paw, kind of hanging loose over its belly, no doubt exposing its tummy to the lovely cool breeze that's coming down the mountain from our east. And I don't think it's going to be too long with this lovely cool weather before those lions come out and join this lioness and her cubs. Oh, I'll be so excited if it's the two big males. I haven't seen them. I suppose I haven't seen the sub-adult males either for a while. Either would be very exciting, but a big male lion with a big mane would be an absolute treat this afternoon. The lioness is, yeah, she just lifted her head. She's facing her nostrils straight into the wind. Busy smelling. That little cub on the right, look at how alert it's been. It's been looking around a lot more than its sibling. That looks like the little male cub, the cub on the right, the one that's now grooming itself. And his sister lying flat and fast asleep, just like Mum. Look at how he's busy grooming himself. Using that super rough tongue to comb through his fur. Keeping up his hygiene. Of course, those little hooks in that super rough tongue will pull out any bits of dirt or dried blood. Jerome, you're asking about why the backs of these lions' ears are black. It's very well noticed, Jerome. So have a look at, now that cub, I hope that it turns its head to the left, but look at how much those black spots contrast against the rest of that lion's body. There's a really sharp contrast. And also look at how much it contrasts against... What are you doing? He's trying to... He's clowning around. He's trying to groom himself. He over-rotated and lost his balance. Sorry. So, yeah, look at how much those little black spots contrast against the surrounding bush and against the lion. So they serve a number of purposes. Firstly, imagine for this lioness with her cubs, and especially when those cubs were younger, imagine as she's walking through long grass, maybe leading her cubs to a new den or leading them to a kill, look at her, the color of her body, and how well it blends into the kind of tawny brown, golden brown grass or the grey grass. I suppose even green grass, she'll blend in relatively well. But those black spots on the backs of her ears, the black tuft of hair on her tail tip, those will stand out quite a bit and provide something for the cubs to see easily. That's very sharp contrast, easy for the cubs to see, easy for them to follow. By the same token, imagine if this lioness and her two sisters that make up the rest of the pride, or at least the rest of the lionesses of this pride, imagine they're busy hunting through the plains, maybe stalking a herd of zebra or a young giraffe. And if they fan out and they're trying to coordinate their attack, they obviously can't make sounds to communicate to each other because then their prey will hear them. But if they just watch each other out of the corner of or they just very carefully watch each other's ears, by looking at those black spots on the backs of the ears, they can see which way their sisters are looking. So they can non-verbally communicate to each other where prey is. There's also another thing that those ears will serve to do, and that cub that's further away from us is illustrating it perfectly now. Look how it's putting its ears back. Now it's putting its ears back to listen to what's going on behind it, but a lion does that also when it's aggressive. I spoke about the cubs being aggressive to each other earlier. When a lion gets angry or gets afraid or gets scared, or when it's trying to defend itself, it will put its ears back like that. And it shows, I mean, look at how those black spots are now being shown plain as day or clear as day towards us. Also, look at the cub's mouth. There's that black line around the mouth. And imagine if that cub was snarling at us. You'd be able to see its white teeth against the black background of the mouth. And at the same time, the other thing that lion would be doing if it was aggressive would be flicking its tail, just like that male cub did now. But that tail would be flicking and swishing from side to side fast. So going side to side, up and down, all over the place. And that black pom-pom on the end of the tail would be waving furiously all over the place. And all of those are very starkly contrasting markings. The black and white of the mouth, the black on the backs of the ears, the black on the tip of the tail contrasting against the tawny body. All of that is the lion's way of saying to another lion or to another animal, to a human, I'm not happy with you being here. Leave me alone. You don't want to fight with me. Leave me alone, please. So, very interesting question, and those are all theories as to why those spots are there, and yeah, then there's quite a couple of them. So very, very important features of a lion. Something as simple as the coloration on the backs of the ears. And think about the other big cats, tigers and leopards and cheetah. They also have those black spots. KB, you're asking if I've ever seen a lion keeping its baby spots into adulthood. KB, yes, I have. Not personally with my own eyes, but I've seen documentaries, and it's very much a genetic thing. So some lion populations, those spots only last for a short while, and they lose them as they approach adulthood, or they fade a lot as they get towards adulthood. But there are some populations of lions where those spots don't fade as much, and even on an adult lion or lioness, you can still see those spots pretty clearly. I'm just thinking now, not so obvious with this pride of lions, but with other prides of lions we have in the reserve, some of those lionesses, even though they're pretty old, you can still see their spots relatively clearly on the insides of their back legs, on the leading edges of their back legs. Yeah, but then I've also seen, like I said, on nature documentaries, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was in East Africa, in Zambia or southern Tanzania, where the population of lions there, the adults seem to retain their spots quite late into adulthood, or throughout their life, for that matter. That little male cub looking down into the valley. There's a vehicle that just drove past. I don't know if you were able to hear that, but look at how inquisitive that little cub is. Heard the vehicle, heard the voices of the people. Oh, apparently there's a bit of action at the Hyena Den, so let's go and see what Trish has got to show you.
There definitely is. Our heart's finished suckling. We have all 5 cubs out, and there's hyena whooping close by. Let's just be quiet and listen to the sounds for a little bit. course it wants to stop as soon as I say let's listen. Not surprising. Oh, look at that. Magnificence. I'm hoping that this action will bring out the little one. No, 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 no. Where are you going? Oh, yes, your baby needs a bath. How cute was that? Come on, we need that sixth one to just show itself. All 5 out now. I hope that the hyena that was whooping will be coming through. No, hot. Hot. Khaki Boss, you'd like to know if there's a history of bad feeling between June and Heart? Not that I know of. So in 2018, when we had the last set of cubs, Heart didn't have any cubs that we saw, that we knew of. The only cubs that we had were by Pretty, Corky, June, and Ribbon. So the interaction between Heart and June was not a one we saw often, and was able to make any assumptions about. But what I suspect may have caused the trouble between Heart and June, I say suspect in italics, is that Ribbon and June were denning together for a little bit. And then, so it kind of felt like June and Ribbon had an alliance going, and Corky and Pretty had an alliance going. But then Ribbon became Matriarch. June got really, really, really badly injured throughout that time. That's when she got the floppy ear, only around that matriarchal takeover time. And I wonder if, because Heart has become Ribbon's closest associate, on assumption, that maybe she's kind of defending her position by keeping Heart submissive. I don't know, but I don't know of a history of bad blood between them. Heart's still sniffing around. Okay, she sat down. Just see her bottom there. Yeah, her cub's going towards her. This is one of the reasons that I love to sit with them and watch how they behave with each other. And you also get to understand someone's squittering right here. You get to understand their relationships and lots of things about the dynamics that are just amazes me. So complex. And you've got more milk to give? It's dedication right there. Things have gone quiet again. I was hoping that the presence of all 5 cubs, the whooping, would bring another adult around, maybe bring that little one out. But we can always hope. Just because it hasn't happened now doesn't mean it won't happen by the time the show ends. What's that girl? Is somebody else coming? Is it June? Please be nice to her if it is. Although I think it's Ribbon. She has that kind of ambulance-y whoop. Not just a straightforward whoop. She like rolls her R's into the whoop. at least some of the time. I'm very glad that the rain has held up. At one point it was coming down quite a bit, but now it seems to have mostly passed. In the distance there's still blankets of cloud, but I don't see streams of rain, so that's a good sign. And I don't hear any thunder. The whole day we were hearing thunder. Oh, did I speak too soon? Come on, I hope someone's arriving. Raw minute, you'd like to know if it's possible for a matriarch to give birth to only males? Absolutely. It is a chance, always, whether you have male or female cubs, and you have an example right in front of you. The matriarch Ribbon has, of the Djuma clan, she's not here at the moment, but the matriarch Ribbon, she has 2 sons. No daughters. She has no control over that. And also, imagine if she did have control over that, which she can't. But if she did, then there'd be a monopoly over these clans, and then that has a knock-on effect that intelligence would not increase, and we would not have behavioral change. We'd not have a complex society, because now it's all a given. The fact that it is openly competitive and nepotistic means that things can constantly be shuffled around, and that is what introduces the behavioral complexity and the intelligence. That's what keeps it going. Waiting. I'm having a great time just spending time with them, though. Even if we don't manage to see June's little one, at least we know for sure, just an hour and a bit, or about 2 hours ago, it was definitely here. It was seen. It was out and about. So at least we can be sure it's here. I hope the other adult will join us soon. Look at this boy with his legs poking out the back, like a spatchcock chicken. Too cute. Light's getting a little bit low, but nothing we can't deal with for now, and the thunder still seems far away. So we're going to sit tight.
An ever-increasing part of the global population is losing its connection with nature. WildEarth is here to reduce people's stress and anxiety, allowing you to escape into nature even just for a few hours a day. However, WildEarth is expensive to run, and we need help from you to keep this ship going. WildEarth Explorers gives you the opportunity to be part of a program that supports the sharing of nature with the world.
I am David. I come to you live every day from the Mara Triangle all the way in East Africa. My favorite animal in African wilderness is the lion. Lions, here in the African wilderness, I call them kings of the jungle, because in general, they are always up there while they control the savannas of Africa.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth. WildEarth is launching our brand new Explorer program with an opportunity to win a very special WildEarth expedition. The lucky winner will get a behind-the-scenes WildEarth experience at the magnificent and beyond Ngala Tainted Safari Camp. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend with a chance to sleep out in the unique Ngala treehouse. Become a WildEarth Explorer and stand a chance to win this and many other prizes. Terms and conditions apply.
My name is Ross and I'm a field guide at andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. I love getting questions from guests on WildEarth because I love sharing and learning information about nature with new people, and it also makes me feel like you're all joining me in real life. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit your question below our live feed.
You're back at andBeyond Phinda, and Glenn and I have repositioned the vehicle to try and figure out who the mystery lion was underneath the bush, and it's the big male. Quite tough to see, apart from that very brightly coloured or that very bright white belly. But if you look very carefully towards his head on the left-hand side of the screen, there's a big black mane with red fringes to it. No doubt that it's the big male. How exciting is that? And he's graced us with a few movements. He was lying on his back when we first arrived here, and he's now rolled onto his side. And I'm hoping, like I said earlier, that with the temperature dropping like it is, that eventually he's going to get up and come and lie out here in the open with Lioness. And wouldn't that be exciting? That's got me excited. I don't want to move from here until we get to see that happen. The cubs, in the meantime, remember how they were grooming themselves and stretching and moving around? They have gotten bored of Mum and Dad sleeping, so they have both gotten up and started to move around a little bit. Look at that little one there. He's found a stick. Oh, and it looks like he's stalking his sibling. Very half-hearted little rush. Apologies for the bar on the screen there, everybody. Nothing we can really do. The lions will go where they want to, and we had positioned the vehicle so that we could try and get a good view of both the male and the lioness and her two youngsters. Of course, the cubs decided that they wanted to move off. But with them being so active now and the temperature coming down, look at how they're starting to play. They're batting each other in the face. Quite lazily for now. But when this game escalates a bit more, like I'm hoping it will, they'll start to run around a bit. They'll get quite active. They might come back to Mum and maybe try and entice her to get up. Let's have a look if they stand up again. Try and get an idea for how hungry they look. We'll look at their bellies to see how full or empty they are. Try and gauge how long ago it was that these cubs ate and how soon from now they'll need to eat again. Because if they're hungry, they're not going to want to let Mum sleep the whole time. They'll want her to go out and hunt for them. At this age, of course, still completely dependent on Mum. Probably still be suckling a little bit, but eating mostly meat, and they will need Mom and their aunt's hunting skills to get that meat. Still much too small, much too inexperienced to attempt to hunt anything, really. I mean, I suppose if Mum brought them a newborn impala lamb or something like that, they would be able to kill it, not by the way that lions would normally kill, I suppose, by strangling it or grabbing it by its throat or biting it over its mouth so it can't breathe. But they'd realize that it was meat, and they might walk in opposite directions and try to, and then end up killing it like that. Sorry, that's a very gruesome scene that I've just described. Look at that cub biting its sibling on the ear. Can you imagine being bitten on your ear by your sibling? It must be terribly sore. But see how it's not really reacting. So this kind of thing in stark contrast to the story that I told earlier, this is all just play, so they'll be gentle. Moira, you're asking at what age cubs will start stalking for real? Moira, I presume you mean actually taking part in a hunt properly, where they will be a help rather than a hindrance. Moira, it's normally, I mean, I suppose it depends again on the pride of lions, but it's normally between about 1.5 years to 2 years, at least with the lions that I've watched here at andBeyond Phinda. There's 2 sub-adult lionesses of a different pride of lions, and they've only now, kind of in the last 6 months or so, been able to hunt for themselves and been of any use in a hunt. And it's amazing to watch them now, how they just melt into, or they just blend into the scheme of the hunt with the older lionesses and their pride. Really incredible to watch. Whereas this time last year they were just goofy and getting in the way and spoiling hunts, and like I said, more of a hindrance than a help. But more in terms of stalking, they will have already for months, they will have already been stalking each other, stalking mum's tail, dad's tail, other family members' tails, an unsuspecting tortoise, maybe a rhino, of course a big rhino, obviously much too big for them to ever think about trying to tackle, but it's a big animal, it moves slowly, it probably won't react to them, so they can have a bit of fun with it, and they can probably get away from it. They're agile enough to do so. Those are all birds, of course. Those will all be things that these cubs, even at this age, will be stalking, practicing their skills. Oh, and of course each other. They'll stalk each other, pounce on each other, practice tripping each other, jumping on each other's backs, weighing their hips down, different maneuvers that lions will use in an actual hunting scenario. They might go for each other's throats, bite each other's necks, but again, that will be, instead of exerting themselves and really biting as hard as they can, it'll be just gentle or relatively gentle bites, so as not to hurt each other. And that's what these games are about. It's not about trying to hurt each other, trying to dominate each other. It's just about developing muscles and play and fun and practicing those skills they'll need later on in life. Oh, the play is getting slower and slower. We need a little spark to get them to get up, and a little spark of energy to get them to get up and maybe come bounding across to mum. Because mum is still absolutely KO passed out, as is this big male. The breeze is getting stronger and stronger, as we said it might do with that storm out to the west, everybody. And it's a nice cool breeze that is typical of a thunderstorm that's rolling in. I don't think we're going to get rained on. Famous last words. But that cooling breeze must be lovely for these lions. It's been such a hot day. These cubs are still kind of rolling around over there. Sinak, you're asking how good a lion's hearing is. Sinak, I suppose it's quite difficult to quantify, but it's very good. It's better than ours. Obviously, their ears are a bit bigger, and their ears are a lot more finely attuned than ours. Ours, I suppose because we spend so much of our time not having to rely on our hearing, on picking up faint sounds for our survival, our hearing, I suppose, can get a bit lazy. If you walk with people who have lived in the bush their whole lives and who have relied on their hearing for their survival, their hearing is often markedly better than your average human being. Sinak, but yeah, I suppose, like I said, difficult to quantify, but it's very good. They'll be able to hear sounds that we won't be able to hear. Like I've been sitting with lions before where suddenly they sit bolt upright, their ears straining and looking off into a certain direction, and then a few moments later you see like an Ngala materialize out of the bush, or A few moments later, you hear maybe on the radio that there's another sighting where someone else has found lions in the direction that the lions that you're sitting with are looking in, and that those lions are perhaps vocalizing. And we're sitting with the lions and we couldn't hear it, but the lions could hear it. Look at the cubs now. This is just what we wanted. Coming out into the open and playing a bit more. No, don't go that way. I don't know what is there, but that one cub, oh, there's a bush there. What bush is that? That cub is looking into the bush. Might be an interesting smell there. Maybe another lion scent marked there. Or maybe the plant is just... it looks like it's a magic guarri. I don't know that the magic guarri will have any interesting pheromones or smells. The lion... Oh, look. There's maybe a little stalk that's going on here. It's a double stalk. Both cubs look like they're preparing to stalk each other. Or maybe not. No, it's just the one that's closer to us. Ooh, that's a very enticing target. Its sibling lying down. Look at how it's keeping its head low to the ground. Stalking, keeping low in the cover. And now waiting for just the perfect moment to pounce. Look at how it's positioned that bush between itself and its sibling. So that it can... There it goes. Pounce. Saw you coming. Not today. Oh, look what it's doing. It's trying to use its back legs to get its sibling off. Let go of me, let go of me. Those of you that have siblings at home or parents at home watching this that have got 2 kids, I'm sure you can all relate. And so often these games, at least with people... Ooh, did you see that? He just got pushed over. See how that cub that's on the ground is using all 4 of its limbs. It's lying on its back and it's using all 4 of its limbs to help it to fend off its attacking sibling. And that's exactly what these lions will do later on in real life if they find themselves in the no doubt terrifying situation where they're being ganged up on by another pride of lions, or where there's an aggressive interaction between them and another lion. They'll roll onto their backs to make sure that they've got all of their paws available or at their disposal to use as weapons to defend themselves, all those claws. And it's amazing how effective that can be. We've watched it, I've seen it once or twice with leopards, where a leopard has been caught out by a lion and the leopard has gone to ground, maybe backed itself up against a bank or in a little ravine, and it's rolled onto its back. And even once I remember watching a big male leopard that had been cornered by, it was 2 adult lionesses and then a group of sub-adults. And the lions wouldn't touch that leopard. He lay on his back with all 4 of his paws extended out. And if a lioness came close, he would swipe at them, and he was giving off the most terrifying, gut-wrenching, or I suppose ribcage rumbling growl. And before we could actually see him, the growl was so terrible that I was convinced the lionesses were tearing him apart. But then when we actually got to see him, the lionesses were too scared to touch him. And it was because of him lying on his back like that and exposing all 4 of his paws and all of those terrible claws towards those lionesses. That's what kept him safe. And of course, that, and then as well, that desperation of having to keep himself alive, and that fierce, I suppose, attitude of a big male leopard. And so it'll be the same for these lion cubs. Later on in life, if they, for example, this young male, when he is eventually forced out of this pride, he may find himself in a situation where he encounters other sub-adult male lions, and they may gang up on him, or he may be confronted by another big male, perhaps a different coalition of male lions. And if he's caught out, he's going to have to defend himself. Otherwise, he'll be killed if he can't escape. And rolling onto his back in that scenario, if it's just the one male one-on-one, might present him with his best chance of not getting killed or severely injured. But I mean, look at those paws and how they're lolling around, and this is all still play. Come on, go and wake your mother up. Apparently lots of you commenting on how cute the scene is with the little cubs and how they're batting each other and playing around. It's adorable. I think also just the slowness and almost the floppiness of their movements. It's almost like they don't have full control of their musculature just yet, like a little puppy plopping along, or a little kitten. Very cute. Shame that poor bush has obviously now become the center of their attention, and they're probably going to get rid of all of the leaves and the sticks on there. I suppose this is their equivalent, the lion equivalent of a chew toy. That little magic gori bush. I don't think they'll be eating any of the leaves. Not very much in those leaves. Henry, you're asking who has got sharper claws, a lion or a leopard? Henry, that's a very difficult question to answer. I suppose I've never read anything about the sharpness of the two compared to each other. I'd imagine though that they'd be pretty similar. I suppose the leopard's claws being slightly smaller, maybe the points are slightly sharper, but by the same token, I mean, both big cats walk with their claws sheathed, very different to those cheetah that you saw earlier that can't completely sheath their claws. And so as they walk around, those claws are kept protected from getting dulled or blunted against the ground. And those lions and leopards will sharpen their claws and keep those claws in good nick to keep them as sharp as possible. So Henry, I'm not sure which would be sharper. I suppose they both be equally as sharp would be my guess. I suppose it's also about the force that's behind those claws. Like a lion, even though its claws may be bigger, there's going to be a lot more force that's going to come from the swipe if the lion does have a swipe at something. I think what we're going to do, everybody, is just because these cubs seem to have settled down there, we're going to try and move just a little bit, just so that we don't have the bar in the way while we're busy filming. But like I said, we'd like to be in this very similar position just because of the ability from here to film both the male if he wakes up, as well as the lioness and the cub. So I'm just going to move us a bit forward. Of course, now the cubs get up and start moving. There we go. Let's try that. Okay, but while we wait for this big male lion to wake up and we wait for the cubs to wake their mother up, let's head on over to Trish to see how her search is going.
As you can see, we have left the den, and it's because Hart has left. So I hope and I wish you all the best that you'll be able to see them while I'm not here. And I'm sure you will, because Lauren will be back and she'll spend time in the den like I have been. So you will most definitely see that cub. And we know that it's there. It's been seen. So I'll be happy if all of you see it. And then I'll watch as well when I'm at home. And hopefully we'll be able to see it. Now we are on our way back towards where the lions were. They were heading in a westerly direction from where we had them last. They sat there for quite a while, and about half an hour ago they started to move in a westerly direction. So we're going to head that way. See if we manage to see them. Spotlight is obviously out, because do you realize that this whole stint I have not found a comedian? That is really, it's quite pathetic. But actually no, we did find one. We found a daytime comedian, not a nighttime comedian, with Theo. And it caught that insect live. That was awesome. And we're actually going to possibly pass that tree in a bit. Actually, we will. We will now that I've thought about it. So we'll see if it is around. I've had a number of chameleons on Zoe's road, and I'm on Zoe's at the moment from the south, moving north. So I need to keep an eye out for eyes in the darkness. It's just a tad darker for me than it is for what you're seeing. It is a leaf that is trying to trick me. It seems like the lions weren't interested in hunting or anything like that just yet, as far as the other vehicles had reported. And the one thing you can always be certain about in a bush, and remember I've told you that there's very few things you can say always or never and be absolutely certain about, but what you can be certain about in the bush 100% is that you will never know, and you can never know what surprise will be around the next corner. So we can be uncertain about the uncertainty. Lots of silver cluster leaves in this area, and I must say that I've never seen a chameleon in a silver cluster leaf, and I've seen many a chameleon. Jerome, you'd like to know if I've ever been stuck in a dangerous situation, as in like my car didn't start or something like that. Luckily not. And that's very, very fortunate. The worst situation that I can imagine being stuck in is if you know that there's angry elephants around and your vehicle is not playing ball and you're being charged. And luckily I've never had that situation. I have been charged by an elephant before. It has not ever been like, you know, a great big charge that I've narrowly missed. There's a little bird asleep in this tree, but I don't like to spotlight them in the evening. So we're going to let this one go, plus it's quite far away. It looked like an emerald spotted wood dove. But in those situations of being charged, it's actually amazing the way that your instinct kicks in, because your instinct changes as you learn. That gut feeling is more informed. I'm very lucky that I haven't been in a situation like that. I've had times that a musk bull has approached the car and I might be a little bit nervous. And if you've really got to have your wits about you and you've really got to concentrate on the situation. And, you know, sometimes you may see things that we don't see while you're watching, and it's because we have to be so aware of the surroundings and have a high degree of situational awareness. But I must say that I've gladly only encountered gentlemen regardless of whether they're in must. Anyway, I'm going to continue on and hope that I find everything on this long list of what I need to find before I go and leave.
come back to andBeyond Phinda. We have repositioned the vehicle a little bit to try and get a better view of the little lion cubs. And look how they're looking off to the right. They're looking off to the right because the big male has just stood up. And he's come out of his thicket and gone into another thicket. No, come back out. We want to see you. I don't think he'll be in there too long. Surely not. Maybe not, or maybe he will be. But the cubs are heading in that direction. Gonna go and greet him, it looks like. Like I said, this is their father, or potentially their uncle. Member of one of the two dominant males in this part of the reserve that preside over this pride of lions, of lionesses rather. Look how the cubs are so inquisitive. Looking to see what is the big male doing, what is dad doing, what is uncle doing. That's quite strange that he's gone from one thicket into another. I would have thought that with how hot today was, that he'd surely come and lie out in the wind, and it looked like his belly was quite full. There was a bit of, like he had eaten. Look at that cub stalking into the bush there. Going to go and greet the male. And its sibling going as well. Oh, here comes the male, he's coming out. Oh, he's not full, he's actually very empty-bellied. There's a big flap of skin hanging under his tummy. And the cub's following him. It looks like he's heading off to maybe go and mark his territory.
So, the lions have crossed west. But that's okay. It's just by the time that we get to Simbambili, show will be ended. But at least in the morning, or rather they've crossed northwest, so maybe at the top of Simbambili, but most likely into Manyeleti. But that's okay. Now we have to move on to my next feat. That is, I need to find a chameleon and a leopard before we end show. Stuck in bed, you'd like to know what I'm not going to miss about the bush when I'm on leave? I feel like you've put me on the spot. I am not going to miss waking up at 4:15 in the morning. I am not going to miss the sweltering 38-degree, 100-degree Fahrenheit heat in the middle of the day. This sounds like a poem. I am not going to miss my little room. I am not going to miss... I think that's it for what I'm not going to miss, actually. What am I going to miss? Everything else. All the animals. I'm going to miss them terribly. I'm going to miss the sense of adventure that I get every time that I go out. The possibilities. Definitely going to miss that. I'm going to miss the sounds. Although I must say the sounds in the evenings in Joburg are not too bad. They're also quite pretty. And this is my chameleon's tree. I'm going to miss the chameleons. I'm trying desperately to find one in my garden in Johannesburg, but unfortunately I haven't been able to yet. Oh, I'm also not going to miss being cooked for, because I love to cook. And yeah, I think that's it. I'm going to miss my crew members, but I'm looking forward to going off for a little bit. And the next time I see you will be possibly in Feb. Hopefully. Anyway, enough about me. Let me send you over to Damon and his lions.
Welcome back to andBeyond Phinda. That male lion has moved out of the area. It looks like he's maybe going to go and start to scent mark. And the lioness has stood up and followed him. The cubs are now following her too. So we're going to try and keep up with him. You might notice that I suddenly look quite different. We're currently in IR. And the reason that we've done that is just a sensitivity measure to the animals around us so we don't end up shining bright lights on them. So let's turn around and see if we can catch up with these lions. Here's the lioness right here in front of us. And there's the male too. I'm just going to take us a little bit more forward, nice and slowly. We're in low range, so we can creep along with the vehicle. And then we'll switch off right there. How fantastic is that, everybody? This is just what we were hoping for. To get to see these lions as they start to get active. In the evening, looking at Mom's belly, I mentioned that the male's tummy was very empty. Mom's tummy looks pretty empty too. The cubs don't look as empty-bellied. They probably had a bit of a meal of milk. But they could definitely do with some meat. So I've got a good feeling that that might be on the agenda for this lioness tonight. And she might go on the hunt. She may go and join up with the rest of her pride, the other two lionesses and the sub-adult lions of the pride. Ooh, I can smell it. Oh, it's lion. I can smell lion scat. We watched the male defecate just now. And we're unfortunately parked directly upwind of his pile of scat currently. Listen to the mom calling. I don't know if you can hear that. It's this very low, deep, soft call that I can feel as much as I can hear. And it sounds a bit like this. Ooh. 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 And we spoke a bit earlier about the hearing of lions and their hearing capabilities and how their hearing is much better than ours. They're able to hear lower frequencies than our ears are able to pick up. And so they can hear those contact calls, that soft, oh, even though to us it sounds very soft, that low infrasound, that low frequency aspect to that sound will allow it to travel much further than what we'd be able to hear it from. Oh, listen to the cubs. That lioness has just gone into the bushes here, and she's obviously been reunited with the cubs. I'm just going to keep quiet, listen. Can you hear that? The cubs are making these... It's a sound that cubs make when they're happy and when they're hungry and when they're nagging mom or when they've just seen mom after being left alone for a long time. It's like these groaning, yowling sounds. Apparently, I'm sorry, everybody, you can't hear it again. Again, it is quite a low sound. They're off in the bushes off to our right. I can't really see them, but we can see the magnificent male, him lying in the middle of the road with that incredible pitch black mane around his neck and his shoulders and even going down beneath his front legs down into his belly. A sure sign of a male in his prime. Just like that big elephant bull we saw earlier with the one tusk. This is also, that elephant bull was a bull in his prime. This is a male lion in his prime. Oh, look at that big yawn. Where he's lying now. He's lying looking up to the north towards the Ubomba Mountains, and it will be interesting to see what he does from here. With him being pretty empty-bellied, of course, it's going to be typically much easier for a lioness to catch something than for him to catch something. So does he stay with this lioness? JP, you're asking if darker manes attract more females than lighter manes. That is a very interesting question, JP. There is evidence to suggest that that is the case. And in my experience, that's what I've noticed as well. I've noticed that between coalitions of males, it's often the male that has the slightly bigger mane that ends up getting to mate more. It's also, I suppose, partially, it may even work hand in hand. That typically that very dark color, the very rich black, comes from a higher testosterone level in the male's body, and that might come from him getting to mate more. So perhaps by him having a slightly darker mane and getting to mate more, his mane is going to get darker and darker, if that makes sense. But there's also evidence that's to suggest that it's not true 100% of the time. I've heard of cases where males with blonde manes have been able to mate over their brothers that have darker manes, or over their coalition partners that have darker manes. So it's not a hard, fast rule, but I suppose it's like a bird having a male bird having brighter feathers, or like, for example, a peafowl, maybe a male peafowl having a bigger tail, or antelope having a male having bigger horns, or a deer having a bigger set of antlers. Definitely more appealing to the female. Okay, that male lion has moved off. We're going to see if we can try and keep up with him. If he is going to go off on a territorial patrol, like I said, there's a couple of different things you could do here. But the fact that he's leaving this lioness suggests that he's not going to hang around here. He may go off in search of the other lionesses of this pride. He may go, if he keeps on going in the direction that he's going, he's going to head straight towards the other pride of lionesses that this male and his brother move with. Like I said, they've got a massive territory, the two brothers, and they move between two different prides of lionesses. So he may decide that he's going to go and check up on those lionesses to see how they're doing, and if perhaps they are going to try and hunt so that he can get some food. Or maybe he finds a hunting opportunity on the way. Could also be that he's going to go and try and find his brother wherever he may be, but either way, any of those activities are going to involve him walking very far and very fast. So it's going to be pretty difficult for us to keep up with him. I think the better decision, instead of trying to keep up with him, also where he's going might get quite tough for us to keep our signal, just because of how mountainous it is. So I think we're going to stick with this lioness and see what she and the cubs get up to. So we'll reposition, but while we do that, let's go across to Trish and see how her search is going. There we go.
Guys, I've managed to find a goodbye chameleon. I'm very excited about it. It's not very close. There we go. It's a big one. Flap-necked chameleon, everybody. So happy that I could show you one. So happy that I found one. Just, it's one of those things, you know, sometimes you really wish for something and it all happens on that last day. I'm so excited. But now I wanted to do something. But of course it's not going to do something. They're diurnal, so now this one's just resting up in the tree. It'll spend the night here and then go out in the day again to very slowly forage for some insects, particularly flying ones. They like some of those. You can't see its eyes right now. Maybe if I roll forward, let's try. Nope. Wendy's not having it, not rolling forward. Oh, there we go. Well, were your eyes closed? You can see just a pinhole of a pupil there. Marco, you'd like to know if they shut their eyes when they sleep? They do, but only very briefly. But sometimes, the majority of the time, they'll shut one eye. when they sleep because they're able to engage in I just had the word and then it was gone. Hemispherical sleep, which is when half of the brain can sleep while the other doesn't. Dolphins can do a similar thing. Just so they're constantly alert. If a chameleon is sick, unwell, or injured, or something like that, then you may find that both their eyes will be closed. And like I said, in deep sleep, both their eyes may be closed, but most of the time it's that hemispherical sleep, where part of the brain can shut off while the other part is still alert enough to be able to still see any danger coming, or be aware of any danger coming. Aren't they just gorgeous? Ravenholt, you'd like to know if all chameleons can change color? Yes, that is the mark of the species, or this, not species, but rather group of animals. All chameleons can change color. That's what defines them, one of the things that define them as a chameleon. But the extent to which they change color and the number of colors they can change to is different. For example, this flap-necked chameleon is basically got a range from pale green, yellow, and black, and brown. It can't make purples and reds, like many of the chameleons that you may see in other countries. Dwarf chameleons can get a little bit more colorful. Those are the ones that you may see in KZN in South Africa. Even here near Maripskop, you'll get dwarf chameleons. But these guys, black, brown, yellow, green, and then a paley kind of cream. That's the extent of their color change. And that all depends on the layers of cells that they have and how they can create different colors based on the combinations. When they're at rest, all the different cells that contain the pigment are small or in a resting position. When they're excited, those cells are excited because of hormonal stimuli, then they expand, and that changes how the color is perceived, what wavelengths are reflected and absorbed, and that's essentially how the color change works. Now you combine that with different layers of cells, some contracting, some expanding, then you can really have a good control over the color that you are. But remember, it's hormonal. It has an ant walking on it. It's triggered by a hormonal change, and the changing color of a chameleon is more likely a signaling, a communication between species, an expression of some hormonal change as opposed to camouflage. They'll get very dark when they're cold and they're exposed, so they can absorb as much sunlight as possible. They'll get very vividly colored when they see a threat, because these guys are territorial. Another male or another female, then they'll get very vividly colored. Sometimes they can get black as well. Around their mouths can go yellow. And it's all happening because of minute yet complex changes in their skin. I'm very glad that we have this find. and obviously glad to share it with you. Well, at Phinda, the lions are now suckling. So let's go over and have a look.
Very impressive, Trish. Well done on finding that chameleon. That male lion everyone has disappeared. He has gone off on his nightly territorial patrol. And so we've, as we said we were going to do, caught up with the lioness and the two cubs. And look at how the cubs are busy suckling. Remember earlier I said that these cubs would still be suckling from mum? And how their bellies being a little bit bigger, a little bit more full proportionately than their mother's belly, and then that big male's belly, that they'd obviously been suckling. And that's exactly what they're doing now. That's perhaps what those yowls were that I heard earlier that unfortunately you guys couldn't hear. It was just too faint and just too far away. But that was probably the cubs nagging mom to let them suckle. They've been kind of latched on there for quite a while. And it's keeping them pretty quiet, I suppose, just like if you give a baby a bottle. Keeps them quiet for a bit. And mom looks pretty relaxed. Of course, for her, those teeth are they're starting to get their adult teeth. They haven't got those same, the mouth is not full of those same needle-sharp baby teeth. Well, I don't know. I don't know if this is more comfortable for her or if it was more comfortable when they were smaller. But she certainly doesn't seem to be fazed by them. She's not wincing or growling. And eventually when these cubs are done, I'm pretty sure that will be when she's ready to go and she decides to head out on the hunt for the night. And the cubs having full bellies, it might keep them a bit quieter, might improve their behavior a bit, if you will. Make them a bit less likely to spoil the hunt. But mom will need to eat. I mean, I don't think it's anything desperate. She doesn't look like she's in danger of starving to death. But she does look like, oh, look, yeah, she's already starting to wiggle her leg around there. Maybe that cub, maybe biting down a little bit hard. And she's giving a bit of a reminder saying, hey, don't do that. That's sore. But if she's to keep producing milk, she's going to need to eat her for herself. David, you're asking how exciting it is for lions to be active near our vehicles. David, it is unbelievable. It's such a special experience. Obviously, we'll never try and get as close as we can to a lion. That's never our goal. Our goal is to get to a place where we can observe the lions as well as possible without us impacting on the lion's behavior. But it's exhilarating. It's something that if you haven't experienced it for yourself, David, it's something that you need to experience for yourself one day. It's something otherworldly. It's almost like a primal experience to be this close to an animal or to be on these kind of terms with an animal that is so, I suppose, so revered around the world and so well known for its hunting prowess, and I suppose in folk tales and fairy tales for its bravery and its strength. And above all of that, I mean, it's a creature that we have co-evolved with. And so it's a creature that I suppose we have almost, if you will, genetic memories of. And you don't need to know what a lion is to look in, if you will, to get that feeling of exhilaration when a lion looks you in the eye, or if you see a lion walking along. I suppose I'm waffling a little bit, David. Sorry, it's very exciting. And super, super special to get to watch these cubs suckling from mom like this. And to have kind of lived out the story of their afternoon and their lives. Like watching the cubs wake up and start playing, watching mom wake up, watching the male wake up. The cubs go to investigate the male and then decide, no, this is not worth our while. He's not interested in us. He doesn't have anything for us to play with. To then watch him go off on his own, and goodness knows where he's going to pop up tonight. I mean, he could walk many, many, many kilometers from here. in his search for food and his search for other lions tonight. And this lioness with her cubs, who knows where they'll end up. Like we said, they might go on the hunt, or they might not go too far from here. But it's been a super special afternoon with them either way.
This is Rusty. He's my favorite vehicle, and we've been through all the good times here in the bush. Now, if you feel a connection to Djuma Game Reserve like I do, then we have a fantastic opportunity for you. You can have your name engraved on a brushed metal plaque just like this one, and we will attach it to Rusty so you can always be with us on safari in spirit. We will even send you a digital photograph once your plaque is mounted on Rusty. Spaces are limited, so grab your spot now.
Goodness, look at its wobbly legs. Oh, I don't believe it. I can't believe we've actually seen it. Oh my goodness. Oh, careful, careful, careful. Oh no. Oh, it's okay, little one. Okay.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Hello everyone, I am Yapi and I am a safari guide at andBeyond Ngala. My favorite animal is the lion, because 99% of the time it doesn't do anything. And the 1% of the time it does, it's just awesome.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth. Have you been watching WildEarth and dreamt of being right there on safari with one of the guides? Well, now you can. WildEarth is offering you a chance to buy a ticket to dream. You or a friend can hop on board a live WildEarth show and join our guide on safari. The ticket is redeemable at any of our locations, anytime in the future. Only a limited number of tickets are available, so don't wait. Get your ticket now and start dreaming. Terms and conditions apply.
I've scooted over to quarantine very quickly, hoping to find a last-minute leopard. I've just found a last-minute wildebeest family. I was worried about them today because I hadn't seen them today. They're usually out here in quarantine. All 4 calves are still around, and that is great. I wonder if you just heard that. It wasn't me that burped, it was them. So many antelope out here, but you know, despite there being so many antelope, doesn't mean they couldn't have been a leopard. So I had to leave our gorgeous chameleon just in case we would be lucky with a last-minute leopard. Quarantine is always a good bet in the evenings and the early mornings. Always. It is also very helpful that it's quite close to camp. But it's very productive. This area is just... you can see for quite a while, and it is very productive with predators. As well as quite an array of antelope. Today on quarantine, the antelope we've seen are waterbuck, impala, wildebeest, steenbok. Which is a great amount, I think. They look a little concerned in that direction, but can't hear anything and no alarm calls. I wonder if there's actually a 5th little one there. Well, I guess you'll have to find out tomorrow when Lauren and Andrew jump on board for you guys. And I'd like to wish you all a really happy New Year and a wonderful Christmas or festive period with your loved ones doing the things that you love, despite the state of the world at the moment. So all the best to everybody, and I'll see you next year sometime. And of course, thank you for your questions, your comments, and your continued support. Until next time.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, everyone. We're out here on quarantine having a bit of a listen at all the birds and seeing the wonderful antelope out here. I'm very excited to be out. It's the last drive for me today. That means it's very exciting. So jump on board, everyone, for your live safari through the African bush.